here. Wait, hold on. Here we are. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. The Drop with Frank and Brian. I'm Frank, Custom Life. We got Brian,
Grinder TV,
and our guest this episode,
Will
Freeman,
Surface
DVD. Yeah. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm honored to be your guys' very first guest. I appreciate that.
Well,
Well,
I got bad news for you.
Yeah, you're the second guest, actually.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah. Was that a joke?
It was a joke.
Yes.
It was a joke. It went,
Oh, okay.
That's all right. That's apparently
Putting
the
us on the
second
spot.
joke that I've told related to this that has gone over everyone's head.
yeah, he told me a joke in Messenger the other day, and it didn't really come across as a joke at all. I was like,
Yeah. I asked him if we were
you-
going to be talking about specific truck brands or if we were going to talk about specific builds. And apparently it's going over your head as well because you guys don't listen to your own podcast.
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
So, long-time listener, first-time caller.
Well, let's hope this all works out because you're the first guest in person.
Yeah. Well, over there.
Yeah, over there.
Over there in person.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how you're gonna set it up on the screen, so I could say down there
You will be
or over there.
You're gonna be where Joey was.
I'll be.
Oh, okay,
I'll be
so-
in the center.
Yeah, he'll be in the center of us right there.
there.
We'll be. I might.
Yeah, there you go. So, hey,
Yeah.
welcome.
I'm the first here, but it felt like I drove there.
Yeah. he had to drive out to California to go to Brian's house.
I miss California so much. I wanted to move almost back.
I know. It's actually quite funny.
It is. It is. So how are we going to start this off?
Well, I think.
Wait, hang
go
on,
ahead.
time out. I can't hear you. I just realized I can hear you next to me, but I can't hear you.
Yeah, you're not. You won't be able to.
Yeah, I don't think
Okay,
that's not gonna
sorry.
work out like that.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, we can't.
It's okay.
We haven't figured this 100% out yet.
As we've said before, this whole thing comes together like at the last minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like none of this is like meticulously planned out or anything like that. It all comes together.
There's a good-
It's the same way we started it.
There's a good possibility I call you tomorrow and say, "Hey,
We got to do this.
we got to do this again."
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's
It
a
hasn't
real.
happened
that's a
yet. It
real
almost
thing.
happened on the pilot episode with the bad audio, but
That's right. Yeah.
but it hasn't happened yet. So I mean, my
Yeah, we haven't had to re-record anything so far. So knock on something.
Oh, yeah.
Well, knock on something. But we haven't had to re-record anything.
Will
so
Will
that's
will
good.
just say, "I'll just do it from my house. I'm not driving all the way up there again."
Yeah, figure it out.
He's like,
This is how I trick my friends into coming to hang out with me.
Yeah. No, actually, I was like, we should invite everybody, and then we'll do dinner and all that stuff. But
would do it like with a live audience type thing. Oh, that'd be cool. We should do that one time as a live pod.
Yeah, we could set it up at a show one time.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Oh, you know who used to do that? We were at a show when we were out in Florida for a show. Someone was there. I don't think it was OLP. I think it was someone else. I don't know.
it
But
was,
they had
the best damn truck show.
Oh yeah, those guys. Yeah, I haven't heard about those guys in a while.
I don't know. They fell off the face of the earth.
Oh well. Nah. Well, we took over the space. We're taking over the podcast.
We are now the best damn truck show podcast.
Oh sure.
I'm enjoying it so
But
far.
Will, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So we just let's get it started with just for our listeners who don't know, listeners and viewers who don't know, who you are, what you do. Just kind of give us a quick rundown.
Sure. Well, I'm Will Freeman, Surface Will online. So started Surface DVD and all that stuff with my good friend Nick Crouch years ago, and just been into trucks and the mini trucking scene and all that stuff for a really long time. Now I'm pretty much just working all the time. That's about it. But yeah, I do screen print stuff like you. So
That's what let's unpack this whole thing. First of all, Surface DVD. You are a big. Well, you are a big part. I don't know.
yeah,
how to,
like it was.
You're like
me
a big
and-
part of
Yeah,
Surface.
me and Nick
you
started
are Surface.
it, and then my sister's always been a big part. My wife Brienne as well, and then just friends that we've had for a long time here and there. When we were younger, we had the Surface house, kind of like Brian talks about the houses that he's had, and everybody just got like 100 roommates and stuff like that. So we used to have the Surface house, and everybody there would always chip in a little bit when we were out traveling or filming or doing whatever. But it's pretty much started with, me and Nick, and he was taking a class at the community college on video editing this way back in the day, and needed a subject matter, so we were into cars and stuff. He
that's
filmed.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So he put some
that's
stuff.
That's how the idea kind of came about.
Yeah, and then obviously.
So you didn't really start off. You really didn't start off Service DVD with the idea that you were going to create this media company or whatever. It was sort of just like a side project.
Yeah, it was a school project really that he was working on, and we were just like, yeah, this is cool, this is neat. And then right in that same time, you had your Low Life video, your Domination, Low Life in Southern California, and Domination was actually based out of here too in Arizona, and so we were around it. There's a big car scene in Arizona, big mini trucking scene, as well. So yeah, we were just doing it for fun, and then we also kind of were like, well, we could do this, I wouldn't say better, but different. Like, we have a different idea than what we're seeing in some of these. You guys have mentioned before that, Low Life had kind of that, not the party vibe, that was more the Domination. I felt like Domination was just drag, destroy, all that fun stuff, as well as just wild parties and stuff like that. But one of the things was that we were like, well, we want, people with kids to watch what we're doing too. And honestly, we were we would go to parties and throw parties, but we weren't party animals or whatever. So that was not our scene with it. We were into art and making art and doing that stuff. That's kind of where we met, was in art class in high school. So yeah.
That's always been the you were talking about all these different video companies like Low Life, Domination. I never actually, to be 100% honest with you, I didn't really watch any Domination videos.
Oh.
So I really don't have any reference for that, but I grew up, came up on Low Life videos. And it was always really cool to me that each kind of thing filled a different niche, like you were saying. And the thing I've always loved about your guys' videos is exactly that. And I keep on getting the tagline mixed up. I keep on calling it when music meets the asphalt, but it's not. It's when you guys call it when art meets the asphalt.
No, you got it right the first time. So,
I got it right. Maybe I said it wrong. The last
so
time.
our big influence really, besides the other companies like Low Life and Domination that were doing truck specific stuff, was skate videos. That was our thing. So
yeah,
you have a really cool song and a dude skating to it, and sometimes. There was we had a Lakai video DVD that was very well put together, and it was everything kind of went to the beat with these skaters and everything like that. And that was a big influence. But yeah, that was kind of our direction with it. So the first DVD is called Where the Music Meets the Asphalt, because we're basically making music videos, but we're putting trucks the scene and the lifestyle and stuff into it as well. And we, being artistic, we always try to find a different vibe for each thing. So that first one, Where the Music Meets the Asphalt, also came in a CD jewel case, and it had the stuff was listed on the back. It was like you were buying a CD, and there was a lot of levels to that, which was it's music related. We want people bringing these in their trucks and watching them on their fold out DVD players and stuff. So it was a jewel case. You could already throw it in your truck. There was a spot for it and stuff like that. So that's kind of where all that
I don't remember that one, but that's really cool. I remember you kind of saying on an offhand comment saying that that's what inspired you guys a lot, was skate videos and things like that. That's exactly what inspired me when I first started making videos. It's funny you said that, because that's exactly what I was trying to accomplish, because I grew up watching skate videos.
I think actually every truck video company was inspired by skate companies.
Yeah, I mean, it had to be.
It was, Mike was, Oliver was, they were, because everyone grew up watching skate videos.
It makes perfect sense before you start driving.
Yeah, exactly. You were skateboarding, so you're watching skate videos.
Yeah.
So it's I mean, it even goes along with the old Krusty Demons videos. I don't know if you ever watched
that's
those.
right.
You know what I mean? Because they kind of got into the same thing. It's just that the whatever you're riding is different. So you're riding a skateboard or you're riding a dirt bike, but the group of people and the partying and the just kind of just hanging out and having fun.
Even down to like the equipment, like back then, like our first DVD was shot on a like $150 Panasonic mini DV open box. Me and Nick I think at the time he was still at Circuit City and I was at this place called Ultimate Electronics, which was also Tweeter in like Vegas, I think for a while. But it was just an open box camera. It was the cheapest thing we could get to use, and then we had aspired to get I forget the model number exactly.
The Vixa.
It was the Sony 1000, yeah. That every skate video, like that was the one that had the handle on it, so you could
handle and the mic on the front.
Exactly, and then it was like I think Mike had it, and
I think Mike did have that one.
and we were like, we got to get that. We got it eventually, and used it for a while.
I think Surface was the first ones to just not use a fisheye lens, like to actually get creative in doing like you said, like taking time doing the edits, not just kind of. And I don't want to say everyone's throwing them together, but because you could take a fisheye lens, throw some cool music, and throw some trucks on there. There is zero editing to that. It's just clip after clip after clip, and you're just kind of into it. But I think Surface was the first ones to actually like this. We need to put this clip after this clip after this clip
and to the right music and everything.
Because it makes sense. Like this clip makes sense after this clip.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Yeah. That not only that, like, does the clip make sense being the next clip, and is it going to the right beat? So there's I think in our second or third DVD, there's it's kind of ended up being a mix. It was supposed to be a feature on this like wild C10 before C10s were everything. And then ended up, we didn't have enough footage, and we put it together with a bunch of other stuff. I think it's outro on our second DVD. And
it was the second. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's the second because I can't remember the names too much, but I can remember what they look like. And the ones I'm most familiar with is the one with that looks like a playing card.
Playing card is reintroduction. That's our third video. It has the blue C10 on the cover. The second DVD is Since We Last Spoke, which is like money themed. The whole thing is like money themed, and
okay. Now
it has the two-tone Ranger, which is now gray. That thing's been through 100 iterations. But in that video, Nick was doing basically all the editing, and then I don't know. We work good as a team, so a lot of times it would be like, he's doing like a first edit and then I'll review it and then we'll go over it. And that particular video, like I'm watching what he put together and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. And then I'm like, you're on the wrong beat, because he was editing to a different click in the track. And then I was like, this doesn't make, and then we switched it around. And then I was like, no, this is the beat that it should be going to. And
well, that's kind of what I was saying. When you use different headphones, you hear different things. If you're just using
I see what you're saying.
I have really nice computer speakers, but I will not edit to those computer speakers because I'm not hearing certain pieces of the music. Right. And so if you start to get off track, it messes with your mind a little bit. Like you'll be like, wait, half of this video is edited on this beat. Then the next half is edited on this other beat. This is not, it really is a visual sensory overload type thing that most people don't get.
But sometimes that could be a benefit because you could have something and it's going a certain way, and like you don't want to bore somebody. That was a big thing for us, is like, we don't want you to get bored. We don't want you to be like, watch it one time and be like, that was cool, I saw some cool stuff in it. We wanted it to be like, every time you watched it, you were like, oh, I didn't see that before. I didn't tell the way that clip clicked to that song in that way before. That was always a big thing for us, was like, don't bore people.
Did you enjoy watching people watch your videos?
Oh yeah.
I remember going to parties and stuff, and they would be on, and I would just sit like in the back of the room, and I would watch different people and where they got bored, because people will just like watch, and then they'll just stop and they'll start talking to the person next to them, and I'm like,
stop talking.
Wait, what are you doing? You have to.
You're missing this.
This is a really cool part that's coming up right now. But then you look at the other people, and they're kind of into it. Like it's just really
everybody's
cool.
different, I guess. Yeah,
it's kind of like what we were doing. We were talking about when we rewatch our videos, when people share them. You're almost like doing it. You're like, they're watching it right now. I'm gonna watch it right now too. Yeah, kind of like I wonder what they're thinking.
Yeah.
What did they find interesting? What? Yeah. No. Totally.
Or you watch it again yourself just to obsess over like, whether you'd like it or what you could have changed.
There's-
a lot of times when we finish something, I get super proud of it, and then I just want to keep watching it and be like, yeah, so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
The trailer for our Milestones DVD, our last DVD, that trailer is like, go watch that on YouTube. It's so good. Like it's just so good. It's just like Nick got like every perfect clip from the whole DVD and just like crashed it into that one trailer, and it's so good. That was trailers too, were something that we always got excited about making. Is like, you spend all this time making this DVD, because that's what we were doing back then. There wasn't really YouTube, and I mean, even when it wasn't where we were at. We wanted to make these whole all-encompassing art projects that you got this physical thing in the end. But yeah, it's just, I don't know.
That's a big thing that I'm gonna miss, is getting the physical piece of the CD or the DVD case. Like I still have a box of all of my CDs that I bought with all of the inserts and everything, but I don't have any of the CDs because I had them in a whatever they called CD case.
Like a CD case.
And I lost them, or something happened to them.
Yeah.
So I don't have the CDs, but I still have all of the CD cases.
I think that I have that same thing
And I'm
going
like,
on.
what am I gonna do with these? I can't. Like, I've moved 7 or 8 times since I've had these, and I'm like, just throw them away. And I'm like, I can't.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
No,
know.
I have in the attic, I have like a box of CDs, like a heavy box of CDs that like someday my kid will find in the attic, and who knows if CDs will be a cool relic
know.
then.
I know,
what
right?
I mean?
Well, on the third, just going into the third Grinder TV DVD, people were like, "Hey, can you put this on a USB stick? I don't even have a DVD
Yeah.
player."
Oh,
And I'm
that's
like,
fine.
man, this sucks. Like,
But then it's like, you're afraid that everyone will just share your video, and like at that
Yeah,
time, because
yeah.
at that time you were making money off of the product, the
yeah, and when we started, we never even wanted to make a DVD. It just kind of happened, and then we got obsessed with it, and then finally went back to kind of YouTube stuff where we originally were going, and it was that transition time where making a DVD now, it's just, you're just wasting so much time. And
Yeah.
it sucks though, because like you said, getting the case and all that, all the like the bonus stuff
yeah.
is where you don't get it on YouTube. It's like watching a movie on Netflix or on streaming. You don't get the bonus features.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't get the poster in the DVD case. You don't get that stuff. You just watch the movie and then that's it.
Yeah, I don't know. All my DVDs are sitting up there in the office. I hardly ever like watch them. Every once in a while I'll pull them out just if I remember something like,
Yeah.
oh, I remember this particular part. I want to rewatch it. But for the most part, like I don't really.
My
I don't know, I just put it away.
My DVDs served a purpose for when I would move house to house or whatever. Before I had cable, it would take a couple days for them to set cable up. So I'd literally play Lords of Dogtown. I would fall asleep to Lords of Dogtown every night.
That's cool.
Night for like a week, you know what I mean? But there's no reason to grab the DVD because you can just stream it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
But
got.
but at the same time, you can't get rid of them.
Oh yeah, no, I know that's what you're saying. Like when you're talking about your like CD cases and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of. I still have all mine. I never lost my CD case, so I actually still have my old school
Yeah.
CD case and everything like that.
Yeah. The other day you posted that you were like, score today, and you had bought a CD, and I was
Oh
like,
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
so
I was down in.
strange.
Yeah. Well, but you know what? So actually, it's funny you bring that up because like we were down there. So that I don't know if you ever heard, Amoeba down in L.A. Hollywood. So we're there, and yeah, we were walking around. I'm like checking out CDs and bands and stuff, and Angie's with me, and she's like, yeah, well, you can get that on Spotify. But I realized what you can't get on Spotify, and that's why I swooped that up is the compilation disc. Like the one that I scored was I forget, I know something Tentacles. It was basically Jello Biafra's from the Dead Kennedys, his record label, and it's all these songs, all these Dead Kennedy songs done by other bands. So it's like got all these really cool songs done by other really cool bands. So I think
Nice.
I don't know, maybe that's the space that it fills is like these really rare compilations and stuff like that. 'Cause, yeah, you're right. You could just cruise Spotify and listen to that music.
Yeah, or the same thing like talking about Netflix and stuff like that. I'll still buy certain things if I'm like, I really like this and I'm gonna buy it. So like I really like the new Ghostbusters movie. It was so good, and I just immediately bought it on Blu-ray as soon as it was out. I'm probably never actually even going to end up watching it, but it's like, I want to have this. I did the same thing with like Fight Club. Every limited edition cover case, whatever, I just buy it.
I've never seen that movie.
You never seen
really?
I've never seen
it's a
Fight
good
Club.
movie. You should.
Favorite movie. Not for like the weird, like, bro versions that like a lot of people like. I'm a huge David Fincher person, so like anything that he directs, I love. But.
There's a company, if you Google Vinegar Syndrome, they redid Rad, but in 4K.
Yeah.
And they did a very limited run of it.
They have it at Zia.
What's that?
They have it at Zia Records.
Oh, do they?
Last case.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
It was like $50, and they're going on eBay for $200 and something. But so I got the 4K version, a Blu-ray version, a poster, and all this stuff, and I watched it, and I was like, man, this is like, there's no reason to buy that except for that collector.
Yeah, just to have it.
Just to have it.
Whatever.
Well, and plus,
That's
for me, like going into Best Buy and you walk past the bargain bin, I'm not going to not buy Chasing Amy for $5.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
I will walk right by that bargain bin, man.
It's hard because I want to buy stuff out of that all the time. We were at Barnes & Noble earlier before I came over here, and there was like the CD rack, and I'm like, ooh, it's $5? This is a great album for $5. I don't need to buy this on CD.
It's the only thing. It's the only thing that's actually gone down in price over time.
Yeah.
Because nobody buys them anymore. I ordered a CD the other day, and it got here, but between me ordering it and it arriving, I downloaded both the albums on Spotify and listened to the whole thing on Spotify. So it showed up. I just put it in the closet.
Yeah.
that's funny.
But I have it.
You have it, and then maybe you'll come across it. It could even just be as a reminder one day. You're like, oh, yeah, that's good. I want to listen to that.
I found myself owning now, so you know me and the Pinks, like I love the Pinks, and so they come up with the records, and I find myself now owning 2 Pinks records and no record player. So I'm like, I told him, I said, at some point I'm gonna have to buy like a record player.
Gotta get one. I'm addicted right now. That's my thing for the past couple of years.
Vinyl,
vinyl, like whatever, and not in that like it sounds better, because I don't think it does actually. It sounds great, but like there's like. You have to flip it over, whatever. But one thing it does get you to do is to like listen to a whole album again, like back when I used to do as a kid. And again, just going back to that, like having something. I like buying these vinyl records because it's this big,
it's cool.
13-inch square, and there's inserts, and then they come in different colors and all that. I mean, going back to like making DVDs versus YouTube and stuff like that, like I still want to make stuff. I have so many ideas for truck related stuff and videos, but like if we get back into doing it soon, like I don't want to have it be specifically for YouTube. I want it to be another DVD, a physical thing.
Wouldn't it be interesting if how things come full circle is like, it all started with DVDs and then it migrated into YouTube because DVDs were becoming obsolete. But what about if it's now like it's like vinyl and it's like all this other stuff? It's now like these limited edition DVDs, like here's a physical copy of something. It could end up being like that, coming all the way back around.
Well, it could very well. I mean, people come up to me all the time. Hey, you have any Grindr TV? When is the next Grindr DVD coming out? When's this? And I'm sure they get it all the time too. Like, hey, when are you going to do it? But the problem becomes it's a huge time related thing. And then when you're done, how many people are going to actually buy that? Versus how many people are going to go, can you just put it online? It sucks because you want to do it as a creator, as an art, as a project type thing. But if you're going to put a year of your life into this and then you sell 200 of them or 300 of them, you're like, it doesn't feed that itch of it feeds the itch of creating it, but it doesn't feed the itch of people enjoying it.
Yeah. Well, it depends too on because you guys are doing this more as like work for a living like this. So like using that format, if we do another DVD, it's going to be because we want to have fun. And
that's true.
We want to make an art project or whatever. I like going back to the vinyl thing. Like I want to do, our first one was a CD case. The next one I want to be a vinyl record. Like
that'd be cool.
It's going to come in a thing this big. It's going to be limited edition. You're going to pull something out and have inserts and all that stuff to look at and everything like that. So, if and when
it's kind of falls in this
we do that.
This like thing in between. Like right now, and it happens all the time, even with us. Like people are such high consumption in the today's society. They want stuff like if the show was on Saturday or Sunday, then they want the content next week.
Yeah.
And I've never made a DVD, but from what I gather from what you guys are saying, what I know, that you do have to invest a ton of time into it. So maybe like I'm saying, that's where maybe things are going is instead of like everything swings, like goes crazy. So like everybody is way crazy, like wanting high consumption content, but then we kind of like long for that days of DVDs and like physical media and stuff like that. And it just keeps on swinging back and forth. And like I said, maybe that might be a thing where people are like, they're not going to buy those things to consume. Like, oh, I want to see the Forbidden Fantasy show. They're like, oh no, this is just a cool thing to have.
It's a compilation, just like you said, for the CD you were buying. Like, it's something that like, oh, I can put that on and that can be something that I like watch those in that order, which you could do that with YouTube. You could do a playlist or whatever, but it's
different. It's like comparing a physical magazine to an online magazine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There is a difference. We're slowly losing it. You know what I mean? In 20 or 30 years, I don't know if it's going to be that way, right? But if you do it right now or within the next 10 or 20 years, it'll definitely be a cool thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what happens, the spot that everybody's in right now, and this is a good way to put it, it's like people romanticize that kind of stuff. Like people romanticize, magazines and DVDs and like all this stuff that used to be. But then like when it comes down to it, and I guess the same thing could be said with like apparel too, because some people want like American made apparel, everything made in America. Well, it's totally possible. We could do that. Like we could start doing that tomorrow. But then are people willing to go to pay the cost on those things? Because, American made, everything American made costs more. A DVD that took a year to make, like you can't like, I wonder if people would like, they're not like, if you did this, if you created this like limited edition DVD and went through all of this work putting it together, you got to sell it for like $50-$60.
I think
they're not going to be $20 DVDs.
No, but I think people would definitely spend the money. Even $100.
I think so too.
Because if you look at,
I think so too.
There was a band that I used to, went to a guy in high school, there was a band in my high school that was pretty popular. And I still follow the guy on Facebook and stuff. They just re-released one of their albums in vinyl with special editions. And one of them was like $750. This wasn't like a popular band. This was a local Riverside band. Crazy. And I was like, no one's going to buy this. And I went to buy the cheapest one and they were all gone. There was like 5 levels of this thing. And so people will, if it takes them back to their youth, it's like, look at how many people are buying skateboards for Tony Hawk skateboards or GT
BMX
Performer.
bikes.
BMX bikes, $500, $600, $700. So,
more than that.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess that would make financial sense with the time wise too. If you're going to do it and spend all this time,
yeah,
and you're not going to. You're right. You're not going to sell them for $20. You're going to sell them for $75, or you can even make different editions.
Yeah. And again, it depends on what you're doing. Again, like if you guys are doing it for work and to have income, again, if we did it, it would be for fun. And obviously, we would want to make money, recoup at least what we did. That's how we always were. All that time that we were making those different volumes, it was like we would go to a show, we would sell a bunch of DVDs, we'd sell some apparel, all that stuff, and then we would take that money and be like, how do we put this towards the next one? Everything just dumped in a circle. Yeah. Like we were never taking money for ourselves. Like we weren't profiting as work. We both still worked, Nick had the benefit of working at home and being like a freelance artist and doing that stuff. And so there was taking the time. Yeah, on our last DVD, like we were like, you have to get paid for your time. So, we took that, like some of the sponsors that we had were specifically just to make sure that he was making money and could pay rent, while he's making this DVD and not working on, a drawing for someone else or something like that. So, but in general, we would just always recirculate the money right back into making more products.
Yeah. I mean, you do that even when you're doing it for profit like we are, for money.
Oh, yeah. For a lot of it goes right back into it.
Yeah, I would say quite a bit of it. You go to a show and you see like, oh, I made a bunch of money. And then you go, well, I got to pay for my hats. I got to pay for some more shirts. I got to pay for some more stickers. And you're like,
the gas to get out there.
I didn't really make any money.
Or you get excited for the show and you're like, I'm going to make all this new stuff before we go. And then you got to front all the money. And then you get there and you're like, God, please let people buy this
We
stuff.
did that. Me and Frank had that moment going to LST the first time we went together.
That's right. Oh yeah. When it wasn't the first time we went together, it was like, no, I think it was either 17 or 18. I can't remember.
We were driving. It was nighttime, and I said, "Hey, it might rain." And then we're like, "Yeah." And what if we don't sell anything? And this is February. We had just bulked up on stuff for the whole year.
Yeah.
And so we started kind of crunching numbers in our brains, like, and it got quiet in that truck for about an hour.
Yeah.
And plus, to go further into that story, we were in the middle of Texas in the middle of the night. It was like midnight, just dark. So like you're just there and the road and your brain starts thinking. And yeah, we were we really psyched ourselves out on that one. No, you know what year it was? That was what? How did that year? I think it was fine. What I remember is that year. Well, I was 18 actually. So I was 18. I was 17 or 18. And it ended up being fine, but then 2 years later in 19, that's when the actual that's when it went crazy. When I had to break down early and leave on Sunday. Do you remember?
That was 18.
19. That was 18. Okay, I'm
I don't know, whatever.
It was crazy, but yeah, that night driving out there was we really psyched ourselves out.
Yeah, because you put so much into it, and then you have to, even doing it for work or fun. It's all the same. Because if you're doing it for fun, you're still working your day job to fund the fun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's scary. That trip's scary.
You went on that trip. What year did you go, Will?
I don't remember what year. We went a couple times, but one of the years we actually had a booth there. And
really?
Yeah, we we rolled 5 deep in my Fusion and stuffed the trunk with merch. We didn't have a trailer or anything like that. So our buddy was driving his Frontier he was bringing out, and he took our 2 tables and our Easy Up, and then all our merch was in the trunk of my car, and we rolled 5 deep in this thing all the way there.
That's awesome.
We got there and we're pulling DVDs out of cracks and stuff like that and everything like that, just because it was
That is what's nice though about having DVDs as merch is they don't take up a lot of space.
No, yeah.
It's not like T-shirts and stuff like that.
Yeah, but we still had all that too. So
you guys, and your booth was set up where our booth normally is. It was down a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then you went with the 1 year where it torrentially rained on Sunday, where we just showed up and tore everything down.
Was that? Oh, was that the year you went? So what year was that?
I don't remember, but it was the second year it had rained because you guys were already we're going to Home Depot. We're gonna get the wood, the plywood, and we're gonna lay it down.
Yeah.
And I was just I don't know what's going on here. The wood barely helped.
We're seasoned veterans now. We have a solid plan when we go.
I want to
out
go
there.
back for sure. That's a really good show. When you
that
get
was going to
there,
be one of my
wow.
questions. So when you were making DVDs and going to a lot of shows, what were some of your favorite shows that you went to?
My favorite show of all time was Drop Zone in the Northwest.
Which later became Relaxin' in the Northwest, right?
Yeah, I only went to that show that we went on that 1 year. I think the video's in our second or third DVD, but it was just a super long drive. We did one of the caravans, hey, people are coming from Arizona, and then we met up in Southern California and then stopped in SenCal and then NorCal, and it's just kind of you're grabbing people all along the way. And then we got there, and I had never been to a run that had so much asphalt on it, and people just driving and dragging all night long, and just super good vibes. And they had the indoor area, the outdoor area, the camping areas. It was just a really fun trip with a really good vibe. And then we took the PCH back home and just all the scenery and everything. But that show awesome. Was super fun. That was probably my favorite show I've ever been to. And I think it just had to do with how good of a trip that we had, as well as it was party atmosphere, but not oh my God, these drunk idiots. Sometimes you get that.
Some runs could get. That vibe. I never went to a drop zone, but we have been to the Relaxin' in Northwest, and that vibe kind of carried over. When we went up there, it was still super chill and fun.
It's the same people, that's why. Well, it's the Pacific Northwest. They don't cycle out. Those same people that are at the events now, they've been going to events forever.
Yeah. I really want to hit up that relaxing
Yes.
in the Northwest a lot.
Hopefully they do
Next
again.
year or
Hopefully they
two.
take it back to that Salem Fairgrounds too.
Yeah, that fairgrounds
Like
is great.
the drag racing, whatever it was, that drag racing place was cool. Like it was good, but I don't think it had that, like Will saying, that same vibe as the Salem location.
Yeah,
Because like
for
the
sure.
Salem, you got the scenery. It's like trees and forests.
Yeah.
And for people like us who come out of the desert, we're just like, wow.
There was also no curfew, I believe. You could just do whatever. Like I remember at what's the Parker one?
Oh,
It was one thing.
West
that it was
Coast?
one thing.
West Coast.
West Coast. They had a curfew.
Yeah,
Which was
quiet-
implemented by the park, but like
Yeah.
they were like, okay, it's quiet time.
Yeah, like
It's
stop cruising,
yeah,
stop
no
doing this.
cruising,
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, they don't have to do that anymore at truck shows because everyone is just like, I'm tired. I'm going to bed.
I'm old now.
Yeah.
There was at the last West Coast that they had. If you stood down kind of by where you guys camped
Yeah.
and looked down towards where we were, it was just dust and like trucks and stuff. So I remember going when I was in the late '90s, early 2000s, and it was just chaos all night and day.
Yeah.
The last West Coast I went on, I remember standing down there, looking down the road, and it's dusty, and then like two dudes are pushing babies and strollers out of the dust, and I'm like,
You're like, whoa.
times have changed, and
Yeah.
there was no quiet hours that night because everyone would just went to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy is that what you're talking about was like now 10 years ago. I think the last West Coast was like 2011, right?
Yeah. Time flies, man.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
think
So
about
now
all this
those
stuff.
little babies are freaking, 12.
I know, it's just funny, but he was right. Yeah, they didn't. I forgot about quiet hours.
Yeah.
You drive around and they'd yell at you, "Park it."
Yep.
Yeah. Those
Yeah, I
last
remember
few
those.
years of West Coast, it got progressively more and more strict about like, it's quiet time, guys. Like, no cruising, no whatever. And
Thanks for letting us drink from morning until night and then going, all right, shut it down.
Yeah. I got to tell all these people to quiet down.
Yeah.
But yeah, that show was probably my favorite. I mean, I've been to a bunch of shows that I really enjoyed. I mean, I've always enjoyed your guys' show, the Forbidden Show. That was like a mini destination show for us. It's not that far to Cali, but when you guys were in Paris, that was a big deal every year. And that show was huge, and we would.
Well, I
make a
remember
whole
you guys
weekend
used to
out of
make it like you guys used to come out to the show and then like hit the beach and stuff like that.
Yeah, we always try to make like I don't like going to a new place or out of town. If I'm leaving town, like I want to experience whether it's like some restaurant I've never been to or a tourist spot or maybe a spot only locals know about or something like that. Like I want to do that type of stuff. I don't want to just like sit at the hotel and drink and then then go to the show and then just go back to the hotel. Like I'm ready to explore.
Yeah. I remember we paid Nick to make us a video for our show, for advertising, because we were trying to push our show to get like a more of like a vendor expo type thing. Because
In Paris.
at Paris, yeah. And he made the video that he made us. It starts out at the beach, and then it's just funny.
I
'cause
remember that.
when you live in Arizona, and then you think, oh yeah, we're going to SoCal. But when you live in SoCal, you're like, there's nothing beach about
Yeah.
Paris, California.
Right.
Yeah.
Riverside.
Yeah, but that's because that's that ended up in one of our DVDs.
It did. Yeah, yeah. The
And that's
edits were
because-
very similar, yeah.
Yeah, and that's because we were like, we don't want to just go to the hotel and
Yeah.
go to the show. And we drove all the way out to Long Beach, I think. I think those beach shots are from in Long Beach. And,
That's cool.
But yeah, that's how it was. It was a vacation.
Yeah.
I had to take time off work to go do the show. I don't want to do just the show.
Right.
I know.
Yeah, no, I totally get it.
If it's like a regular type show. But we would do all kinds of stuff too. Like you were kind enough to always let us in like after hours. We would just like, everybody would be getting drunk at the hotel and we were like, hey, we're going to go to the show and take night pictures. Or
Yeah.
whatever. Like,
All the things you're talking about, I think really like set the tone for what you guys did. And you guys were always innovative, always coming up with new stuff. I remember one thing specifically that maybe it had been done before, but yours was the first time I saw it, was when you guys were attaching GoPros to the suspension of vehicles. And I forget which DV that it was on the Hot Rod, and it was on like the green Tahoe.
Yeah, that's in Milestones, our last video. Which
Okay.
is my
That was really
my favorite. Because that was like when we've always, from the beginning, we always tried to do a little bit more. So like we started with that $150 Panasonic Mini DV and then progressively. But even when we had that, we were like building our own steady cams. You know, we had bought like a big jib, which now is like ridiculous with like how,
With the weights on the end and stuff.
weights on the end, and you had to take it apart. We had a huge bag, but like getting those type of like movie movements and stuff like that. We were I love movies, and that's
Essentially, what you guys were doing was just bringing a cinematic look
Right.
yeah.
into a kind of a chaotic.
If this was in a movie, like how would it look, or what kind of like weird thing would they do, or whatever. So in that, by the time we had gotten to Milestones, that last DVD, where we had cameras that had replaceable lenses and nice depth of field, and we were doing stuff with the GoPro. It's like, if I have a GoPro, I'm not just gonna like strap it to something and go whatever. I mean, we were buying suction cup mounts for our mini DVD cameras, putting them on the. You can go back to our first DVD. There's a camera mounted to the side of trucks all over the place. But yeah, when we got into that point, like there's a shot in that Tahoe video where the GoPro is mounted in the wheel well, and then like the tire, it just barely misses the lens of the GoPro, but it's so wide angle that like it fit in there. And then we had it under the hood. That was a Houston trip that we took where we did like 4 things. We shot 2 features, the red S10 as well, and we shot Battle Drag there. It was a really cool show. They were always really nice to us. They always treated us really well to come out there. But yeah, and then on that one, it's like, it's hard to tell, but in some shots on that S10 video, like he's like dragging, and you can see like little sparks shoot up under the engine bay. But like the truck is driving and the GoPro's inside there. And that's the type of stuff that I want to keep doing and getting more weird with it. And
yeah, that kind of like what I'm talking about. Like everything that you guys do, there's always an artistic point of view, and I think that actually inspired a lot of people. You were talking about being some of the first to use like steady cams and these really smooth shots and stuff, because that's what everybody's doing now. I mean, it's I wouldn't say easier, but there are definitely more tools to achieve that with like gimbals and
more tools and more options. Like, again, going back to like not wanting to bore people, like is the way to go. So like we would do handheld, we would do jib stuff, we would do GoPro stuff, we would do suction cup mount stuff. And then I remember when like sliders became popular, and every video was just a slider shot followed by a slider shot followed by a slider shot. And it's like, we got one, and the first thing we did was turn it sideways and like run top to bottom and do like, how can we use this differently than everybody else is using it? But you don't want to fall into those niche of the same shot over and over again. I see that a lot in like the import videos.
I'm guilty of that. That happens to me.
I remember the first time that I got a fluid head tripod mount.
Yeah.
There's a video, it's of RJ's Chevy truck, and the whole video is just me turning the tripod. I was so excited that I get this fluid shot. I was like, I was so excited that like it would do this. I could just, you don't step back and think like, okay, stop. It's same with slow motion.
Yeah.
You can tell when someone gets their first camera that does slow motion, because there's their first few videos, everything is slow motion.
Yeah.
It's very hard to, especially being a solo person.
Yeah.
To get yourself out of that. It's nice that you guys had a kind of a team where you can like have ideas.
You could like have like more eyes on it and more brains kind of like deconstructing it, because Brian, you're absolutely right. Like that happens to me all the time. Like when I'm editing my videos, I'm like, man, there's just so much of this, but maybe I mean, it works out. And then the slow-mo thing, I just like, for me, I use a lot of slow-mo, but that's just like as a crutch to get the little smoother shots and stuff like that.
It looks cool.
I'm jealous of that.
I'm jealous of a lot of that stuff, because we stopped, when high frame rate recording, 60, 120 hertz FPS and stuff like that, like was getting big, and it was easier. Like when I look at stuff, I'm definitely not the type of person who's like, it was better back then, you know,
Oh,
whatever.
yeah.
Or we had
Neither
to work
are
so
we.
much. We had to work so much harder to do all this.
Yeah,
or whatever.
neither are we.
Now I'm like, oh my god, like if my kid ever gets into like shooting video or whatever, like the tools that he's gonna have are so good. I mean, you could do so much with like a phone now. I mean,
Yeah.
if you go back and I love our early stuff, but like anybody with a cell phone could destroy our early DVDs now. It's just like it progresses and it moves.
Well, I always think about when Low Life started, when he had to use film. I remember taking tapes out and replacing tapes in his cameras.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Or like
the mini
DV, that's what we were using.
Yeah, and then, or we'd have to go to the store. He's like, we need tapes, and we'd have to find a store with tapes.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, how did you edit this stuff? I'm like, that's crazy to me. I mean, we're just so spoiled now, almost.
Imported and not just like uploaded from your card. Like it was, you had to let it run the time that it took to record it.
If my computer lags just a little bit, I'm like,
Yeah.
I need a new computer. This is lagging on my 10.222 megahertz, whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But you have said kind of like what we always say. You said without saying it what we always say about the whole process. You said when you guys first started, making any kind of content, you bought an open box camera and just started with that, and then progressively got more technical. And that's what we tell everybody when anybody ever comes to us and asks us like, where do I start? Right there. And you have inadvertently said that same thing. You just start with the most basic tools that you can get your hands on, and then you just progressively get more technical.
Yeah, I mean, buying the best stuff isn't going to make you any better off the beginning. I mean, don't get me wrong, like a really great camera is going to look better.
That's not necessarily true.
Well, you know what I mean? Like, the technical...
Well, yeah, but you could, if you gave someone, and this happens all the time, if you gave someone this camera that I have right now, to someone that doesn't know how to use it, to someone that does, you're going to get two shots that are completely different because you and then the story wise too. If you can't tell the story, then it doesn't make any sense. But the equipment definitely doesn't do anything. You can take the phone and just make a cool video with that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And a lot of times, like talking about like telling a story when we were doing making the videos, I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but you're retelling the story to yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you go on this trip and you do all this stuff and you make this video, and then it's like, that's your perspective of what that event was. So like you could go to LST and then watch somebody else's video from there and maybe see things you didn't see or whatever, and then enjoy that video. But if you watch the one that you made, you're like, I remember when that, or I was standing there, or we did this, or how you're talking about what we used to throw in all the stuff from us traveling around and going to the beach and stuff like that. Like we throw those little clips in there. They're reminders for you of what that trip was.
That's what I say about when I'm making videos is like, the hardest part is to take, because I was there. I know exactly how the show went. But now my job is to take all these like raw clips and retell that story and walk myself through that same process.
Yeah, and you could easily get so caught up in trying to do what everyone else is doing. It happens to me all the time. Like I'll go and watch a Crispy video or Holly Sion video, and I'm just like, those guys are filming some truck stuff now, and I watch it, and I'm just like, oh man. And so the next event I go to, I'm like, I have to do that. Yeah. And I'm like, no, I don't. I just have to do what I like.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I started out doing what I liked. I take all these things, like what I saw Low Life doing, what I saw Surface doing, what I saw, and I'm like, I like this aspect to that, this aspect to that, and then here's my aspect of it. And you have to remember that because you can get so lost. And I mean, now I've been doing this for 12 years. And I've talked about this before, but it becomes so redundant that you don't get excited anymore. So you got to kind of figure out, you got to get back to what made it fun in the first place.
Yeah, and that happened to me just recently. I think that's why I got so backed up on edits, to be honest with you. Yeah. I think that's just creative minds in general. Like eventually, it's like you have this like tank, like a gas tank of ideas, and sometimes that gas tank gets super low, and you just like can't get it refilled, and you're just like trying all these different things. But from my experience, I always find myself getting out of that, and I've gotten out of that. I've just finished the Rolling in the Road Rocks video, and now just today, Jesse from the Dream Big Show hit me up. He's like, "Hey, what's going on with the video?" And I was like, "Well, it's coming," but it took me that time to refill my tank and like get myself back into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, like show videos are hard. They're hard because they're interesting, but it gets old making them.
It's
like if you have the opportunity, which I know you do sometimes, I know you were talking about it recently, but shoot a feature, do a truck, like find a truck that you like and shoot that. It will reset you from feeling like I'm just doing this show coverage and how am I going to make these clips with that short amount of time that I had allotted to shoot that day and sell my stuff and do all the other things. Like if when we do another video, it'll probably be 95% features. And then
That's good advice. That's really good advice because that's why you're doing it in the first place. My main thing is, and it may sound a bit superficial, but my main thing for creating all this content is I love these vehicles.
Yeah.
Like I am very appreciative of the people and I'm very appreciative of the scene, but what keeps me like mentally stimulated is the actual vehicles.
Yeah.
So that's great advice to go out there and shoot something you like and that you're already interested in anyway. And that's the other thing is I love showing these things off. So if I can find a vehicle, that my friend owns and then show that off to people, that gives me like an endorphin thing. Like, I get it. That's great advice. It changes
the structure of your day even on the shoot day. So like we would spend if we shot a feature, we would spend the entire day with that person. So like I know a lot of people will try to like knock out features like at shows. Hey, I'm going to be at this show. Let's pull your truck out. Let's go do a little feature like that. And that works sometimes or you can get some stuff. But we really liked spending the day with somebody. So we would go, we would travel, we would meet up with them. Hey, let's get a little cruising shots here. Hey, do you know a good spot? Or, you research something on Google Maps prior or something like that. You try to get an idea, like, go shoot at that spot, go shoot that. Let's go get some lunch. Or, like, a lot of times we'd do, like, a full day, and then we would take the person out to dinner and be like, hey, let's go to dinner and, like, let's hang out and just talk about whatever. And, like, you make new friends that way. And you have a bigger connection with them in the video when you go to edit it of, like, that experience of the day.
Yeah,
that's really cool advice.
Because I've tried to force myself to do features before, or someone will be like, "Hey, let's shoot my truck," and I'm like, "No." And then I shot a feature in January of 2021 that I still have not edited because I'm like, I know it's like it'll make, but I can't get into it because it was just like I didn't plan it out correctly. I mean, even Moonbeams, we shot his when?
I don't know. I was gonna upload pictures last night of when me and you went to do that, but. The truck has changed so much.
I know he kind of ruined it too.
Yeah,
I did this.
He ruined his truck.
Well,
no, it ruined the plan for the.
I see what you're saying. Oh, I missed. I caught that. I was like messing with my camera a little bit. And I caught that halfway through that.
I did a whole interview with Milan and then shot rolling shots of his truck and all that stuff. Then he went and changed the bumpers and the wheels and all this stuff, and the truck looks a million times better now. And I'm like,
right.
I'm not uploading this video now, and I wasn't prepared. I didn't do like what you were saying. The best features that I've ever shot is when I tell people like, hey, if we're gonna shoot your truck, it's gonna take all day. And they're like, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, well, then I'm not gonna do it. Yeah. Because then I end up in the exact scenario that I'm in with some of these features I haven't done yet, is because I was too rushed. And it's not gonna reflect what I want it to reflect. So it just sits on the back burner.
Yeah, we were always picking stuff that we liked too. Yeah. Like that was another thing. Was like people would be like, "Oh, shoot my truck," or whatever. Yeah. And sometimes it'd be like, "Oh, yeah, that's cool." And like maybe we'd get around to it. And then other times it was just like, I don't have the passion for not that their build was bad or anything like that, but like you don't have the passion for that. Like there's stuff that we see that I'm like, I want to shoot that. Oh, you guys like half started to talk about that. Rotary Mazda. I want to shoot that thing so bad.
That thing's so cool.
Bad. I want to do a feature on that truck, like so bad. But that's the thing is like you get that excitement, and that's what you want to go do a feature on, stuff like that.
Yeah. And I am the same way, and maybe like that happens to me a lot. People will come to me and they say like, "Oh, did you shoot my truck, or is my truck gonna make it in the video?" And it's very like kind of skirt around the issue, but honestly, like everything you see in my videos personally is stuff that I like. Stuff I'm like, that's cool. I got to go like get that. So like I don't know how people would take that, you know, but
Or
everything you see
you watch somebody else's video and then you go, "Where was that?"
Yeah.
Like,
oh
you're
yeah.
at a show
I watch
and
Brian's videos.
Yeah. Where was that? I wanted to shoot that.
Yeah, well, that's why, like, when we go to Mini Truck Nats, the way that we did it this last year, it worked out so good because he went in the van, this guy's van, and he went and shot. I just got out and walked down the street.
Yeah.
And then, so you got the rolling shots that night, and then the next night we kind of switched off and did that too, because if you're getting the same stuff, then it's whatever. You're not telling this.
Yeah, that's what's kind of interesting with you guys, because you're doing all this stuff together, but then you're making like separate things. Like when we used to go together and we'd have, you know, 3 of us would have a camera and then we'd collect all our stuff together as one later and it would get edited into a thing like that.
Yeah.
Which, like, sometimes I'll watch some of your guys' stuff, like earlier stuff especially, and I'm like, man, if he just had a partner, like that could have been whatever. Because you really, having somebody to bounce stuff off of is like a big thing.
Oh, it's huge.
We said that earlier in this conversation. Like we are when me and Brian are out doing what we do, it's very singular. It's just like, you know, I am a little. I have a little. I don't want to phrase this wrong, but I do have a little bit different way because I have Angie sometimes with me.
Yeah.
And Angie has got a killer eye for stuff, and she can point stuff out, and she's like, "Hey, redo that again," or say like this. So I do have that a bit of an advantage to me, but most of the time it's kind of me by myself out there. But like we said earlier in this conversation, when you have 3 brains working on something, that's when you come up with you're like you said, let's take the slider and put it up like this and come down. You know, like
some of the best videos that I've ever made were with Cody.
Yeah.
Because he's just super good at what he does, but we're both there and we're both seeing, you know what I mean? And so I remember when Cody stopped doing stuff with me, I was struggling. That 3rd DVD, I was just me and I struggled. You know what I mean? Like but I just had to do it because I had to figure out how I'm going to do this if I'm going to keep doing it. I couldn't rely on that other person to do it. So
we would get like really like working as a team. I miss it, honestly. Like our lives are so busy now with like our families and stuff like that. But like getting together as a team and doing that stuff, like I said, Nick was doing the majority, almost all the editing. I would, 99% of it, and he would put something together, and then I would review it, and then maybe my sister would watch it too separately, and then we'd kind of give some feedback. He'd make some changes. We'd do the whole thing. Like we looked at each DVD like kind of like an album, like a music thing, going like we were influenced by skate videos, but we were also influenced by music and albums and stuff like that. So each one has a theme to it, and it's the artwork and all that stuff has something to do with it. But we'll get it all together, and then we'll be like, okay, this is what we think all the videos are going to be. We're done editing. Let's start to put this together. And so we would have like watch nights where we would be, me, my wife, my sister, and Nick would get together. And then sometimes we'd have some friends come over, and we would just put the DVD, not even the DVD, but just the files on the TV and sit back and watch it, and then be like, okay, everybody gets a notepad. And then we'd go through and like make notes or whatever. Hey, at this time, I thought this shot was kind of weird, or if you flip that backwards, that would be whatever. And then we'd edit it, change that again, and then we'd be like, okay, how does this video make sense? This show, then this feature, and then let's go another feature, back to a show. Like each one of our things was like a whole piece. Like those videos are in that order on purpose. We weren't just like, oh yeah, that one goes there, that one goes there. So
and you could definitely tell.
Yeah, that all comes from working, with a team.
Yeah, and you could definitely tell, and that kind of tying that whole thing together. That's the amount of work that goes into something like that. Again, that high consumption. Like sometimes you feel rushed to do something, especially now with social media and having stuff put out there so quickly. Like you feel like I got to get this. Okay, yeah, we'll ignore that fact that doesn't make sense. We just got to get it out.
I would remember I would go to a show in the morning or something, and I would come home and edit something that night and then put it up in the morning, and Cody would call me and he'd go, you need to take that down right now. And I'm like, why? And he goes, watch it again.
Yeah, it's not done.
It's not good at all. And I would watch it. I go, oh yeah, That's not good at all. So I learned that I can't rush this.
Yeah.
I'll get through it, and then I will go back through it and make it, you know what I mean? Just switch certain things up, make it make more sense, and would just change the whole video, and I would be more happy, you know what I mean? Happier in the end.
Yeah.
What else you got? What do you got for me? Come on.
Well, so going way into depth about the DVDs and how can I put this? Like, how much effort you guys put in it, how much thought you put into it, and your creativity. And between you, Nick, and Lindsay, you guys are like this creative like hive mind, which kind of like segues into the next thing I want to talk about, which is your truck, because it really flows together. Like your ideas, like I'm thinking of your truck. Maybe we could throw up like a picture somewhere of your truck so people know exactly what we're talking about. Like your interior. The ideas that you put into your interior is the same thought, the meticulous thought that you've put into the DVDs.
Yeah, the difference is that it's a lot easier to edit a video than it is to build an interior.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But
yeah, let's talk about your truck.
Sure. So I drive not my daily, but my build is a 1985 Nissan 720 pickup, which actually 720s were not on my radar at all coming up through all this stuff.
How did you get it? Like how did it become yours?
So originally the first person that ever like did anything to it, bag body, it was started when I got it, was actually Dan Hogan, Hoagie Shine. He had it, and a few friends, him and a couple of friends, like did like a bag and body drop 2-week quick thing to get it to West Coast Nationals, like super quick, just like cut it up, get it there type thing. And then I saw it at a little cruise night. So we used to go to the like Saturday night cruise nights all the time. Like they still have one not too far from here every Saturday night. You know, the hot rod guys come out, but back then it was like everything, you know, imports, mini trucks, like everybody would come out. It was a big deal to go to this little parking lot show in a grocery store parking lot. And I saw it there a couple times. And I was like, what is this thing? I've never seen one of these before. Like, and it was just tan at the time. And it was just, you know, bodied on caddy stocks. And I was just like, this is really cool. I've never seen one of these. It just like caught my eye, took interest. And then he sold it to somebody that we were friends with. And they had it for a little bit and didn't really do anything with it. And then they got in a situation, they needed money and they had to sell it. And I heard about it and I was just like, oh, I thought that thing was cool. And so I went and looked at it and, you know, he pulled it out of the backyard or whatever. And or he had it on the street. When I pulled up on the street, as soon as I saw it out there, I was just like, yeah, I'm buying it today. Like,
That's awesome.
I was like, I can have a truck, because we had been doing this for years. Like, I had felt like we were mini truckers, but I never had a mini truck for the longest time.
When did you get that? What like, give me the timeline. When did you pick that up? Like what year?
I got a thing the other day, a Facebook memory that was like 12 years ago.
Oh.
Whatever. So I think I've had it for 13 years, which is like very depressing when I start thinking about it. And like, when I bought it, it was tan. And then Andy Day from All Day Fab did tons of work for me. We've redone all kinds of parts with the suspension and the body. All kinds of things have been done. And he helped me primer it purple in his driveway one night. And I'll get Facebook memories that are like 12 years ago, and I look at it and I go, it's purple then. It wasn't purple. It's purple now. Like it's depressing on some levels, but
well,
you know, it takes a lot of time sometimes. If you don't have the capabilities, like I don't weld, you know, I there's a lot that I can do. I can work with fiberglass and stuff like that, but like there's a lot of stuff that I can't do, and there's also a lot of stuff that I want to try myself, and then some stuff where I'm like, no, that I need someone who knows what they're doing to do that. So
what's the next step for it?
Right now I'm trying to get the interior done, or at least like done to my liking. That's just kind of, it was one of those things where I was like, I want to do this myself. Like I don't have a lot of expendable money. Like, you know what I mean? I have, you know, a wife and kid and a life, and I don't want to just dump all my money into my truck as much as I want to dump a lot of money into it. If it's just like, you start paying your bills and other things like that, and you go, I don't have that much set aside for this, and then I'll be like, well, I'm gonna go buy 2 records today for whatever. But yeah, I really want to get the interior going. So
could you describe to like people who are watching and listening, because when you're just talking, you're talking very nonchalant about this interior, like it's just some regular. It's very it's not, I wouldn't say intricate, but it's I don't know what how would you describe it?
It's a hodgepodge. So my goal for the truck in the end is that I have this like cool bodied 80s mini truck on the outside, and then when you look inside, it's like a modern vehicle. That's the goal. So like Tesla inspired. Like I want a large screen. You know, I originally was going to do it tall like the Model S, but now I've kind of reorganized some stuff in there. But I just got some not Dakota, they're Autometer digital gauges. And I actually bought like a Tesla trim because it's the same size screen. So like my cluster has like a Tesla vibe to it. And it's just kind of coming together.
And then you have that, it's like a Miata or a mini steering wheel?
I have a Fiat 500 steering wheel. Because I wanted something that had a cool look to it, but wasn't just a billet steering wheel.
Right.
Like billet steering wheels look cool in some vehicles, but that wasn't what I was going. I want you to see this 80s truck on the outside, a mini truck, and then you go, oh, well, this is like a brand new car interior in the end. Like that's cool. The vibe that I want to give, you know. Mm-hmm. Again, I'm no professional, but like when it's done, I think you'll be able to get that vibe.
You see the big difference between Will and the way he does things and then some of the things that we do.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Will has a plan.
Yeah.
Like from the get-go, and he executes this plan, and we're just like, we're just going to go to the show and film as much as we can and put it together.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. And that's why, and you could tell, like when you watch the Surface DVDs and you look at your truck, that's sort of the point that I'm trying to make, is you can see the meticulous thought that goes into it.
Yeah.
And there are little details on your truck that I love, and I'll just name off. One is the interior. I love the interior, how it's all come together. But you know, the Surface badge on the front, like, is one of my favorite things. The 720 valve cover, that is my favorite thing of your truck, is that valve cover. And every time I see it, that, and then but you know, before you had the whole cut with the air cleaner coming out, but then you made that. I guess it would be an intake, right? And
yeah. So again, like that's all Andy Day, All Day Fab. You know, I used to do some work with him, work for him. I was like employed by him temporarily, but you know, he helped me do all that stuff, and you know, he's a creative mind too, and so like we would, you know, be like, well, what can we do here? You know, that was a product of, I didn't want a hole in the hood anymore, but I also didn't have money. I'm not doing an engine swap in this thing. You know, I'm not gonna LS swap this truck.
It's like, too cool the way it is.
Yeah, I didn't even have money to like do a Weber. Everybody's like, do a Weber. Those are like hundreds of dollars, and like it was a lot cheaper for us to get creative and be like, well, if we do this, and also had to do a space too, because we had to like drop the motor and do a whole bunch of other stuff to get everything to clear the hood nicely. But it was just an idea of like, well, air cleaner sticks out of the hood right now. We don't want that, but we could build this like custom piece that attaches to the top of the carb. You know, I mean, that's how like the old ones were anyway. It was just this, like round tin of metal with like a filter in it. So, you know, this is just like more modern style look to it. You have like a, you know, a standard car aftermarket.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this, we're gonna you have video of all that stuff, Frank, from when you did.
I shot a feature on Will's truck.
Yeah.
And that goes back to what we were talking about, like doing stuff that you love. And I love your truck, and I love, like I said, so it's the Surface badge on the front, the valve cover, your back window, your club logo basically is your entire back window, and it's made up of your main club logo and then PPs, because you're in perfect poise, correct? Poise. Like perfect poise. Why did I say correct? Like I know that, but yeah, just for our listeners and people who maybe don't know, you are in the Club Perfect Boys. So your logo is your main logo, and then PPs all the way through it in almost like an etched. Like, I understand it's vinyl, but it's reverse vinyl, so it's on the inside of the truck, right?
No, it's on the outside.
Oh, that's on the outside. Oh,
yeah,
okay. But it looks super cool.
Yeah, it's etched vinyl, like etched glass vinyl, so it's like a textured clear. Whatever. And that actually originally, before I was in Perfect Poise, that actually was the same setup, but it was a Surface logo. So it was a Surface logo.
I remember.
The Surface
I remember
S
that.
all over like that. And
That's
neat.
I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off, and I'll let you finish your thought. But do you want to talk about your other club? Because I had that as a note. Because you were
My
in
other club?
Castaways.
Yes, that was the first club I was in. So
Okay.
how I even just got into cars, let's go way back.
Okay, yeah. Hey, let's get away. Let's
Yeah, I
get
have
the
this right here. What got you into trucks? And then I put, how'd you get involved with Perfect Poise? So let's hit on those.
We'll go through all those. So the first thing, how did I get into trucks? I actually wasn't into trucks. I thought trucks were stupid for the longest time. Like I was just like, why would you want a truck? Like, and this is really out before I saw like bag trucks and stuff like that. But just like trucks were never cool to me. Cars were cool to me. And the thing that got me into cars, to be 100% honest, was the first Fast and Furious movie. Like,
Oh, wait, dude, that's a lot of people.
yeah, like we, you know, that was prime age for that. Just, you know, just got the license, you know, in around that time. And we went to see that. And then, you know, they used to do the illegal drags, you know, out by the small airport in our area every Saturday night. And it was fun. You go out there and watch like people get wild out there and have a good time. And, but yeah, I saw that movie and was just like, this is cool. Cars are cool. And at the time, I was driving like my first car, which was a '93 Ford Escort.
Cool.
That was
That's cool.
and I love that car. Like,
Yeah, that's a cool
honestly,
car.
I'll maybe if I ever have like tons of money, I'll get another one just because, you know.
Your son Remy. Here you go, Remy. Happy 16th birthday. Here's a 93 Ford
93.
Escort.
But I mean, it wasn't that old. It wasn't that old at the time, you know what I
Right,
mean? Like,
no, yeah.
it was the same as a '93 Civic. But honestly, I
Yeah.
think the Escort was nicer than the Civic. They just didn't make as many aftermarket parts for it. You know,
I
It had a
always
nicer
thought the
interior.
Escort had a really nice shape to it, and I think because
Yeah.
I was my first club that I was in, the vice president had an Escort, and I just probably my impressionable brain was like it always had good lines to it.
Yeah, I thought it looked cool. So that was what I was driving. It was actually my dad's, but he had got a motorcycle and he wasn't really driving the car. And at this point, like I have my license now, and I'm like, hey, can I borrow the car? And then I'm just driving the car all the time, and it basically like becomes mine. It wasn't like handed down to me. It just was like I'm the one driving this thing all the time. And we saw that movie. Nick had a Geo Prism, which at the time, well, both these cars are 4-door. And then our buddy had a 2-door Cavalier, and we just had nothing to do on the weekends, so we were like, we could do stuff like that. But we all three had cars they didn't make anything for.
And they also don't make any sense.
Yeah,
Like
so-
in the mini truck scene, like what'd
Yeah.
you have? Like, a Geo Prism.
Yeah, exactly. So, but we're in this
However-
like body. Go ahead.
No, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but however, I don't know about the Prism, but I have seen some. We talked about the Escort is really cool. Have
Yeah.
you ever seen that Cavalier on huge billet wheels?
Oh yeah,
that's
the
like
severed
so-
ties floor. It's in
Yeah, so
Florida.
I mean,
Slaughterhouse build
Yeah.
in
yeah,
Texas.
I mean, so people will work with what they got.
Yeah, no, there was definitely more options for the thing. So like body kits are a big deal after
Oh, yeah.
Fast and Furious. So like my buddy who had the Cavalier, he actually was able to go to like the import store and buy like a fiberglass kit that was made for his car. But me and Nick couldn't do that
Yeah.
with the two cars that we had. So we're buying like Accord parts, and then this is where we learned to like how to fiberglass and stuff. So we're like cutting up these parts for Accords and sectioning them and like grafting them to the OEM bumpers and doing all this like crazy stuff to these cars that are like nobody's doing.
Do you
Yeah.
have photos of these?
Yeah, I'll send you some.
Yeah, you
stuff.
have to send
Yeah.
send me some photos and I'll
Yeah, I
overlay
definitely
this
wanna
stuff.
see
The
that.
Escort was like shave doors, custom body kit that was made for it from an Accord kit. At one point, I had R32 Skyline taillights in the back that were like Frenched in. It's the only thing I didn't do to that on that car myself. It's the only thing I regret. It was one of those situations where I was like, this is beyond me. I cannot do this. Where should I go? And people were like, go to this guy, go to this guy. And I'm like, okay, how much, guy? And he was like, this much. That sounds reasonable to me. Has my car for 5 months, isn't answering the phone, isn't answering the doors. Finally get a hold of him. I get the car back. It's night. Like he definitely gave it back to me at night on purpose or whatever. And then I go and I'm just like, he had like done the most ghetto stuff, and it was like there was no seal. Like you couldn't wash the car because water would just go in the trunk because he didn't plan for like sealing and stuff. It looked really cool. I still rocked it for a long time like that, but it wasn't what I wanted. And it basically put that car at a point where it was like I wasn't really coming back from it, you know? And it got to the point with that car where I was doing a bunch of stuff to it. I think a lot of people's first cars are like this, where you get to a point where you're like, I was trying all these things, and now I just need to get a reliable car to get me to and from work.
Yeah.
And then you switch over. So that was my first experience was Fast and Furious.
So was
what
that
got me
switch,
into it.
you know, coming out of that car? Because I remember that you had like I think it was a Mazda that you had
Protege 5 wagon.
That's
Yeah.
what it was, and it was too many miles. Because that was a pretty cool car too.
Yeah, I love that car. That was actually the first car that I ever bought like from a dealership. So my grandfather like co-signed on it for me, and I bought that car new, 13 miles on it from the dealer, and I wanted something that was small and fun, but I wouldn't mess with right away. Like I liked the body lines on it and the styling of it, and I didn't want something where I was immediately like gonna go buy like a Civic and then be like, well, they make all these parts for it, and start like dumping all this money and like cutting stuff up and doing all that stuff. So I drove that car everywhere. I mean, that's how I am. I don't get rid of stuff. You're like, I've owned so many cars and trucks over the time or whatever, but like,
I've owned 3.
Oh yes.
but I will run something into the ground. Like I will have it forever. I'll put it on the side of the house, and then eventually I'll have to get rid of it for space or something. That's kind of what happened with the Escort. When I did that Mazda, we took it everywhere. We drove that to the Drop Zone. We drove that to every California show. We drove it to Texas. We drove it everywhere. And then I had a job for a while as a courier, so I was just putting miles. When I got that plate on it, the car had like 250,000 miles on it. Yeah,
that's crazy.
Those are all my miles too. Those are all my miles. And
That's cool.
yeah, and then that car got to a point where I was like, I don't know what to do with this. And then I got a weird, idea. I was like, I'm gonna rattle can this car. And that car
was cool.
Yeah, if a lot of people didn't realize that's what it was. It looked kind of like a wrap, but it was actually all city graffiti paint. I painted that car with graffiti paint.
I remember saying that. Yeah.
I did it like I was painting a car. Like I masked the whole car off, and I took my time. And if something looked a little bit weird, I brought it back down and redid it and everything like that.
He had a plan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that car was starting to get a little beat up. It had gotten a little bit of hail damage when I was driving it once. And so I just like popped those little things out, wanted to do something a little different with it. And then that car was wrapped, but only the center. So the center of the hood and then up across the roof and then inside the trunk when I eventually built like a custom trunk. And those are all those images was art that I had saved off the internet for years and years and years. So like I do a little bit of graphic design and stuff like that, and have always been into art and everything. And those were all like reference things. So a color reference, style reference, stuff that I had saved in this huge folder, for years. And I was like, I'm never going to do anything with this. And these are really cool pictures. No one's ever going to see it. So Nick was working at a shop that did vinyl wraps at the time. And I just had him, after hours, print me all these collaged out things.
I know, that was so
that
cool.
car was
I
really
remember.
fun.
Yeah, it was a really cool looking car, and I'm reminded that even you had it like on the console. You had the console wrapped in the same kind of thing. Yeah, and you and the Surface crew were doing like stuff like not crazy colors, but different colors. Like you weren't just painting it black or painting it red. You painted it that really cool like aqua teal color.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong. It didn't have like pink wheels on it. And
Yeah, I got RX-8 wheels. I really always liked that, like 5-spoke on those. And then I had them powder coated with like a candy purple powder.
And that was
coat.
way before we were talking in the last episode how things have changed and how people have kind of like become more accepting of the color spectrum. Because
Yeah.
I remember making a T-shirt a long time ago and it had a tiny bit of pink on it, and dudes would not buy it. They're like, I'm not, nope, mm-mm. And now everybody rocks
I
it.
love color. I got a hot take. The kids in the import scene right now are the mini truckers of the early 90s and the late 80s, in my opinion. Like not on the level, well, I guess kind of on that level, because at that time people weren't necessarily cutting everything up yet, right? Like,
yeah, but the thing that there's a big difference in the import world when it comes to body modifications and stuff.
Yeah.
They import cars in that scene, like Volkswagens and water cooled and things, that's been around since the mini truck has been around. You just don't do the same modifications to a car that you do to a truck.
Yeah.
It's totally different. Their big thing is like wheels,
Yeah.
like the proper wheels versus China made wheels or certain.
I just like that, like they're big on color, wild color, different wraps, different paint.
Well, that's why I always hit you guys. Like I'll talk to you or Lindsay about style. I'm like, hey, what do you think about this? Because I have zero style.
Yeah.
Where you guys can see things go, that would look cool or that would look cool.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it too, going back to like me thinking that era, like those kids are kind of in that same realm, is that they're doing what they can with the budget they have a lot of times, and just trying to make it look wild and like a young person does. And I
can
really
totally
like
see
that
what you're
scene a
talking
lot.
about, because they do that. The limbos I've seen where they're crawling on the cars.
Yeah, I've experienced those.
There's like complete disregard for the body panels and things like that.
Yeah.
They're just doing it. They're doing whatever they can to have fun.
Yeah, but I love that scene. I follow a lot of that stuff. I just think it looks cool. There's a lot of stuff car related that I think's really neat. And I've always been to cars and trucks. And then I took my truck out recently to an import show, and I was like, I feel like this kind of fits. Like I have a retro and 80s like Nissan, so I have like something like, oh, that's kind of big, getting big in there is those like older square headlight cars and stuff that, like Datsuns and stuff like that. A lot of those kids are doing that type of stuff, and so I felt like it kind of fit. I got really good reception, and I thought that was neat. Just get different eyes on it.
Yeah.
So,
that's definitely really cool.
I remember being at Sowo in Georgia, the Southern Werther Sea, and going, I just want to bring my truck here.
yeah.
I don't want any of these cars.
Yeah.
I mean, they're cool and stuff, but I was like, I want to bring my mini truck here.
No, that's how I felt, and it's fun because they lock up to it, and like a lot of those cars are really low, but like they're not low like my truck is low. And they're like when the wheel is like tucked up in there, and they're like, what is this? Like, what's going on here? And
experience. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna interject my experience. I've had the same experience, but not with the import scene. I went to one import show. It was a clean culture show down in SoCal.
Yeah.
Not my jam. I've talked about that before. Not my thing. However, the exact same thing you're describing is the Dockweiler scene, the mini truck revival, LA Dockweiler scene. And these dudes, to me, they are doing what we used to do. They have these like just incredibly stripped down, chopped down, lowered trucks. Like most of them are just static dropped. Although I don't know if it's because maybe the two scenes are merging, or maybe it's just, I don't know what the situation is now, but a lot more of them are getting bagged. But they have that same thing. And when I took my truck there, I remember going to one of their events, parking the truck, and checking all these different rides, really getting into the vibe. And this dude comes up to me, he's like, oh, this thing is so sick. I'm like, oh, thanks, man. And he goes, yeah, I've never seen a wild built mini truck like this.
Yeah.
My truck is not wild at all. Like it's pretty basic, but that's what you're talking about. Like it's this culture that exists like parallel to ours, but they're doing it how we used to do it back in the day.
Yeah. And I think it's like a big thing about all that stuff is just like mutual respect for being interested in vehicles. Like,
oh yeah, for sure.
Maybe they're not doing a build that you would do, but you appreciate what they're doing, and then
absolutely
back the same way. Like I've always been about, positivity when it comes to stuff like that. And plenty of people build stuff the way I wouldn't want to build it or whatever. I look at something and I'm like, that's not, I wish they would have done this or that or whatever. But you still respect what they're doing. And I've always been big on like not talking trash about stuff at shows and stuff like that. Like that drives me nuts. I'm just like, if it's not for me, it's not for me. And as long as something doesn't look unsafe. When something looks unsafe, then I'm like,
You got to be positive in this whole thing, and you got to like be, because it's way easier to be positive than negative,
Oh yeah.
That's a big thing. It's super easy to be mean, super easy to be talked down, but it's not easy to do the opposite.
Yeah.
I said it the other way, but I get it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you see a build or something like that, and you're kind of like, and then you see it again a year later, and you're like, oh yeah, they turned it around. Like, sometimes you just don't know. I mean, there's plenty of stuff on my truck that it's like, to me, I'm like, oh my god, I just hope nobody's looking at that. It's just the same thing. It's like you're always gonna like critique yourself the most, or at least that's how it feels with a lot of stuff. But yeah, there's stuff on my truck, like you're talking about how much like you enjoy my interior and stuff like that, but to me it is so unfinished right now that like I don't post pictures of it because I'm like, I'm not comfortable posting a picture of it right now at this stage. Or like when I take it to an event or something like that, I'm like, you know, there's been times where I've taken the dash out and gone to a show, or like I didn't have the dash in when you shot.
Yeah, it didn't have a dash
when you were in town or whatever, and it was just kind of like whatever.
But,
I'm at a pretty further point now,
sorry.
but yeah.
No,
Go
I was
ahead.
just saying. Again, the little creative details. You had the dash out, but then you threw that little sticker in there that said it'll be finished someday, or I
Yeah,
forget
don't
exactly.
worry, it'll be finished someday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's great.
partially for me
Oh.
as like a
Yeah.
you know, when I'm driving it and I see that and if the dash is out, and it's just like, because going back to that, like I'll get those Facebook memories from 12 years ago and be like, to me, even though a lot has changed, it's almost like it's still the same, and it's like you feel like you watch other people around you build crazy stuff and, you know, keep moving and doing all these things, and they get to a level where like they're painted and they pay for paint, and I'm just like, I don't know if I'll ever have the budget for a real paint job. And I'm also like a really weird picky person, so it's like, am I gonna spend a bunch of money to get it painted and then not be happy with what it was? And
Right, yeah.
so I get nervous about that stuff, but yeah, it's like, so that's there partially for me to be like, don't worry, like someday it will be done.
That's
Well,
cool.
luckily-
That's cool. I like that.
Luckily, you know how to rattle can very well.
Yeah. So the truck right now is not rattle can. It is actual like car primer with toner, with purple toner in it, and it's sprayed out of a gun or whatever. It's not perfect. You know, that's one of those things where you're like people are like, oh, I love your truck. It's one of my favorite trucks and stuff like that. And I'm like, you sure? Like, you know,
That's
like
me.
There's like a spot on the driver or passenger side, like door to fender where like, you know, we painted it at night. You could barely see what was going on or whatever. And there's like a heavy spot right there or whatever. And the light catches it and it drives me nuts. I'm like, I hope nobody's looking at that.
No one's looking at
No
that.
one is looking at that.
When you're driving 70, 80 miles an hour down the road, like
And this high off the ground.
just this high off the ground. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the thing too. Is like the past couple of years, since I had my son, he's 7 now. But like, you know, it's a lot harder to just go out and do stuff.
Yeah.
You know, especially a truck. Like I'm driving a 1985 tin can. I'm not putting my child in that truck.
Right,
It's
right.
barely safe. It's not safe for me if I'm getting a wreck. It's a tin can. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's a modified tin can that's
Yeah.
like and half-inch off the ground. And so it gets a lot harder to do stuff. So like the Art of Noise, the show on the baseball fields, that's 2 miles from my house. Like it's like a 100-yard straight shot, but it's like a 2-mile drive. And that's like the only show I had been bringing the truck to for a while. I'd bring it out like twice a year. I'd bring it to their normal show in February, and then I'd drive it right back home. And then I would bring it out to their 4th of July show, and then I'd bring it back home. And I'd stare at it all the time every day and be like, man, I really need to work on this. But I just have so much other stuff going
What do
on.
you think? Do you think your club put some pressure on you by putting the truck on the artwork for Cruise to the Pines?
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
right.
that was like a nice bump a little bit.
Yeah.
And but I in the end, by the time show day gets here, there's not as much done to it as I want to have done.
Yeah.
You know, I have like a full painless style hot rod wiring kit. I want to rewire the whole truck so that I know like what every single little wire goes to. I don't need all these bundles of wires that are under the dash right now going to nothing. You know, I get really nervous about that type of stuff where, you know, I see dudes in like a busted mini truck that are just posting that they're driving their stuff cross country back and forth all the time. And I'm like so scared to drive like 10 miles. Like, you know what I mean? I would be nervous to drive out here today, but I mean, there's no AC. There's no way. It's like 115 today. There's no way I
Yeah.
would have done that. Anyway, but you know, that's where my mind is always going, where I'm like, it's just like, what if something happens? Like, and then that delays me into like really getting the work I want to get done on it done.
And that what you just described is exactly what we were talking about in our last episode, because we kind of touched on the whole like, you know, drive versus trailer kind of thing, and we've touched on built, not bought. Exactly what you described is exactly why these arguments are kind of redundant. It's because there's just so much. Everybody's different. Everybody has different ideas.
Yeah.
Like you said, some dude will drive his busted mini truck all the way, you know, to Texas. That's cool. Like that's awesome. I respect that. But everybody's different. You know, like
Yeah,
you
I
got
just,
and
like,
that ties into the positivity thing. just let people do their thing, man, and just be positive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk behind their back.
Yeah, like a real man.
Well, yeah, but my thing with that is like I am almost like jealous of that like mentality on some level.
Yeah.
To be like, because in all reality, like when I first got my truck and like was doing a little bit to it, like I drove it to West Coast Nationals with like holes in the floor and like heat coming in, and did West Coast Nationals, and I drove it all the way home or whatever. But then every time after that, I'm like, I don't know if I could drive it that far or whatever. We just recently did that like cruise, because our Perfect Poise, our Cruise to the Pines events usually every May, and we got canceled this year due to wildfires that were happening up north. So the fire departments were using our showgrounds as like their main hub, and so we had to switch things up and move the date. So on the date that we would have done it, we did a local cruise and a barbecue for people. We were like, hey guys, you know, we're really sorry, we don't want this to happen either, but let's cruise around town and put some miles on our vehicles and stuff like that. So
Yeah, that's cool. I thought
that was
that
the
was really
first. That was the first time and the longest that I've driven my truck in a long time, and it felt really good. And
That was a long drive.
Oh, it was a really long drive.
Yeah.
And going back to people being like, you know, they're not looking at whatever that I'm self-conscious about when I'm like driving this thing, is that like that day I had 4 separate randos, not in the scene people, regular cars, people who are like rolling their windows down like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Like whatever, you know, I had the tablet in there too. And so like when I was driving, I was almost home, and like the whole interior is lit up with this tablet, and some guy rolls up next to me. I'm like, you know, 2 blocks
That's
from my
cool.
house. He's just like, that's so cool, man. It makes you feel really good, because when you start to get to that point in your build where you're like, man, I'm pretty close to being like done. I don't think they're ever done.
Yeah.
Unless you're building them to sell at Barrett Jackson or whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know, you start to get a little bit of depression on some levels of like, I'm never going to be able to finish this thing or whatever. And then when you do take it out and people are like, oh, I really love seeing this, or I like the progress or whatever, it does kind of give you a little jump start or whatever.
That what you described happens to me frequently. It's because like I've said before that when we go to shows, the number one question everybody asks is like, where's the Forerunner? And I wish I could take
Yeah.
it to more events. But when you do take it to the events, it's like exactly what you said. It's almost like a reset button. You're just like, oh yeah, I remember why I love this truck. And my brain, and you said this earlier about me owning so many vehicles. My dumb brain goes, I don't see the truck because it's in a like a on the compound. I have a separate like building that houses all my cars. So in that building is where the truck sits. So I'm not like. It's not like in my garage where I just open the door and like there it is every day, kind of like how it's like in a separate building, so I don't see it very often. So my dumb brain goes like, well, you know, I could sell it and I could get a Tacoma, and I like start doing all this stuff. But then, like you said, when you get in it, you drive, you're like, oh yeah, I love this thing.
No, I see mine every single day, and I go, man, that thing's cool. You got to get to work on that thing, you know.
Yeah. And Frank's is like, you're talking about yours being like a shell or a tin can, right?
Yeah.
Frank's is like a fully put together truck. Yeah. And he's still like, I don't know.
Yeah, I know. And that is my fault, and I need to stop doing that and just be appreciative of what I have.
Will is at the point in his build where it's gonna get expensive. Like the next steps,
all the stuff I need to do is expensive.
Are the expensive? You know what I mean? Yeah, it's bagged and body dropped, but the paint, like.
Yeah.
Especially on a truck like that. You know what I mean? Like if you want it nice and panels to be straight, gaps to be good, like it's as
of now I'll probably wrap it. That's the direction that I'm leaning. Cuz it actually has a pretty straight body, like the bed's in really good condition, and everything like that. And even wrapping it can be expensive. It's still a couple $1,000s to do like a full wrap.
Yeah, but you and Nick can do it though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I could get creative with that. So I can be like, well, let's do something a little bit different. And, you know, Nick has a little experience wrapping vehicles and stuff like that. So it's like, I can start to like really start turning the wheels when I get to that point. Everything I need right now is money. It's like, I need to re-sheet metal the bed. You know, I can't do that myself. I have to pay someone, and I want to pay somebody, you know, to do that, but that means I have to save money for that. You know, I want to rewire the truck, that I can do myself, but it's just a big project. The paint thing, finishing the interior, like all those little things start to add up, and I don't got a lot of money when it comes to
No, for sure.
doing that stuff. I have all, nice things and I live well and I appreciate everything that I have, but like I just can't just dump all the money I want to.
When Frank was talking earlier, he's like, yeah, my truck is in another building on the compound.
Yeah.
So I don't see it every day when I walk out to my garage. It's in a separate, building.
Yeah.
Just thinking in my head, like
I
the
live a
way you
strange
described
life.
that, I'm picturing, those big houses with the big,
There's
nice
lots of
shops and
hedges,
stuff. And
lots of hedges.
No, it's not like that, but it is interesting.
yeah, no, I know. It's just funny when you were saying that, it was funny to listen to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. This has been a great conversation, and I was hoping that like this is the way it was gonna go. I was just this really great conversation, and kind of like I said earlier, and I think it's as we get more involved with our guests, this is sort of like how I think about it. Like when I was talking about trucks and stuff, I like showing people like this is a cool truck. You need to check out this truck. Check out this truck. And I feel like that with this interview and with Joey. That's kind of what we're doing in these interviews. We're like, this is a really cool person. I need you to listen to this person for a while because they're really cool. And I think that conversation went just like that.
It is. It's going to be exactly that.
Yeah. No, I'd love to come back sometime too because
Yeah,
I know
definitely.
you guys are trying to keep everything to an hour, but I'm like, oh, now I'm like in it and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, we just started going off in all these things and it's like,
Well, even Joey's like, we didn't talk about. There was so much we didn't talk about.
Yeah, I know.
And our trips to Mississippi, our trips to car shows. We didn't talk about any of that stuff. And afterwards, I was like, oh, I mean, there's a good chance you might be coming back to redo this if this doesn't work. So
Oh yeah, that's true.
no, but prior to this, I was like, okay, I'm just going to write down a list of all the times that when I'm in my car, I'm yelling out the answers to them in the previous episodes.
listen to us just.
well, you're
take
here
on-
now, so
everything.
so tell us what we
Tell
need
us
to do
what-
better on
yeah,
our podcast.
tell us how to be better.
Frank, you have to stop apologizing.
I didn't do that once in this
He didn't
episode,
do
and
that
I
once
made
this episode. Yeah,
and I made
was
it a
waiting-
point.
I was watching. I think you guys are doing great. I think that you're getting better every episode. You're getting more comfortable for sure. You had mentioned in another one, but like I only had a few small things that like from someone who just kind of like listens to podcasts, as a person, which is like most people. I was just like, yeah, you guys are apologizing a lot. You don't need to apologize. Nobody's worried about it, or like you're prefacing stuff too much. Like, let me just preface this with like, don't attack me on this one, but this is what I think or whatever. It's just like, hey, just say it. This is your guys' thing. This is your thing. But
Cool.
Yeah, you guys have gotten more and more comfortable. I really enjoy listening to them.
I know this
Thanks,
is
man.
episode. What is this? Episode 11.
11. Yeah.
By episode 20, we're just going to be full blown like talking
Yeah.
madness.
I think they say that like it takes like 40.
From what I read, it takes 7 episodes, not necessarily to get settled in and that, but it takes 7 episodes to see if it's going to be sustainable.
Yeah, but I mean, it takes like 40 to be like.
Oh,
you go back to the early ones and go, whoa, what were we doing there?
Yeah,
like,
sure.
that
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
thing. So I don't know.
Awesome,
But yeah,
man.
I think you guys are doing great, and I really
Thanks, dude.
appreciate that you guys thought enough of me to come on. And
Yeah, for sure.
everything like that. I hope it's good.
I
only have 4 things written down.
Do you? I have.
Did we go through all your 4?
Yeah, we had everything.
Okay.
I have basically the Arizona truck scene. I wanted to get your take on it. I mean, I've been here for 7 years now or something
Yeah.
like that. And I've always been a part of the Arizona truck scene because I've always come out here
Yeah.
for things.
Yeah.
But you've been in it.
My opinion on it is that it has shrank as people get older, but I think there's a lot of stuff still in hiding. Like, I think Severed Ties is a pretty good example of that. Their Arizona chapter kind of disappeared for a while, and then in the past few years, those guys are just like, hey, I'm finally finishing this, or I'm building this and bringing it out, and like, all of a sudden they're like, contending for
I've been talking to-
participation and stuff like that again, and it's really exciting to see that.
The yellow Mazda with the rotary in it. I love.
Oh, yeah.
I've always loved that truck. And
I
I'm
wanna
just
so
feature
like,
cool.
that. I want to feature Steve Lang's white Toyota that he stud. Hopefully get some interior in that. I don't know his name. Billet fan. That's all.
I know, that's what I said. I tell him every time. I said, when you're ready, let me know, because
Yeah.
that
I'll team
truck.
up with you on that one. I want to be involved in that because.
Well, we've been talking about that for a long time. Like,
Yeah.
I've always like, Will, when you're ready, man. Like, if you have some ideas, let's do it.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
It's just push me to do it. I have all this stuff like the day job and all that stuff,
Yeah.
and it's like whatever. Like I'm the general manager at my shop, so I'm worried about 13 people, every day that I have to think about beyond myself and all that stuff, and so I get wrapped up into that. A lot of my life is work related. So on the weekends, I have to be very like, if it's something that's not just like spending raw time with my family like that, it's like I just need you to be like, hey, I'm gonna go shoot this. Can you
I
team
think
up
he's
with
pretty
me?
close. So I think that it runs and stuff now because I've seen him drive
Yeah.
it a couple times.
What truck
but
are you
It's
guys
too hot,
referencing?
though.
It's a yellow Mazda with like
That's the same one you're talking about.
Yeah.
yeah,
it's
the
a
standard cab.
That thing's so sick.
standard cab.
Steve
Those
Lang's is sick.
huge- What's that?
Steve Lang's truck is sick.
Yeah.
I have always said about the
Go to
Arizona
Colorado and
scene.
get that Mazda though, the rotary.
I've always said about the Arizona scene the entire time that I've been going out there is they always hold it down out there. Like things are
Oh, yeah.
always super clean. Like clubs like Ardenoids out there, your guys' Club Perfect Poise, Severed Ties, like they always had super clean vehicles and super clean builds. That's
Yeah.
that's one thing I always said about Arizona.
The scene here when I first started getting into it was massive. Like massive. Like I mean, you go places. There's a huge car scene in Arizona. So like if a new McLaren comes out, chances are you're gonna end up seeing it in a couple months. You know what I mean? It like every car that's made on the planet, basically like you'll see it around town. Somebody here's got it, and
Yeah.
whether they're in town for like something like Barrett Jackson or Good Guys or whatever the case may be. And the same thing, especially earlier back when we were getting started, it felt like with mini trucks and stuff like that. Like you could drive around for a week and you'd probably see 2 mini trucks in a week, and that's like a lot. Like there's people who probably don't see any except the one that they have in their town.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah. It used to be
So
like that where I'm at too. Like, well, I mean, SoCal, just SoCal in general. You could,
Yeah.
15 years ago, you could drive anywhere and there was a mini truck rolling around. However, it's still the same, I think, because you can drive around and you see all sorts of neat stuff just cruising
Yeah.
around. And I think that's just the Southwest in general. The weather's always pretty decent to be out there cruising around. So you'll always
Yeah.
come across something cool.
The Arizona scene in general the mini truck scene might have shrank a little bit, but it's branched off into so many other things.
Yeah, that's the point that I was saying.
The C10s. I mean, you look at Dino's, and
It's like
it's
the
not a
biggest
mini truck
C10
event,
thing
but
in
it's
the
still
country.
like it's something fun to go to.
Yeah.
It's like there's always automotive. I mean, today there was trucks and coffee down at AZ Pro Performance, the mini truck scene in general might not be that, but it's huge. Like you said, the car scene. You can go to Scottsdale and see how many rad cars just driving around.
And that's
And
just,
like mini trucks. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
I feel like I keep cutting you off.
No,
I'm
no, it's
sorry.
okay.
You guys need to quit apologizing to each other.
I'm sorry. No, that's the same thing that's the point that I was trying to make here in SoCal. Like you're not going to see too many mini trucks, but I mean, you'll see a badass hot rod, a lowrider.
Yeah.
Like I was just coming home the other day through the pass and there's a dude driving a full show 63 Impala down the pass. It's just like,
Yeah.
that's how it is.
Yeah, the mini truck scene too. A lot of that has to do with age. Everybody's getting older, so you have like a lot of people who were building like mini trucks, and then they were like, "I'm getting older. I want something bigger," and then they're a full size, and then they're like, "Well, I want something classics," and they get more into like hot rods or like C10s. I think the C10s, even though that scene is like, I'm kind of getting tired. There's so many of them. But they're really nice. But
No.
like that scene to me is like a homogenization of like classics, like hot rods, like that, and then like mini truck style. Like it's really big to have those vehicles on the ground now. Like that's like, why wouldn't you? They make so many ways to do it. But I feel like that's where people go, and then some people aren't like me, where I'll own a vehicle until it doesn't run anymore and then it still sits on the side of the house or whatever, and they're like, well, I want to build something that's worth money so that I can sell that thing or whatever, like that. And I think that's like where a lot of the like local mini truck stuff went, was like the people who had them kind of moved on to other things. But now I think it's starting to come back around. I mean, some of the like using Severed Ties as a reference, like them coming out with all this stuff lately that's just like mini trucks again, You know,
It's like
I
a
think
cycle.
It'll swing back around.
Yeah, it's like a cycle,
Yeah.
and you just said it like you start off building, a mini truck, and then I don't want to use the term graduate, but you eventually go into like a hot rod classic. But then you get to a point where it's now you're like, I want to build that truck I had 20 years ago, but better.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are doing that right now, and I think we're gonna see that the mini truck scene start expanding again.
Yeah, me too. I think it'll be cool, especially. They're cheaper to work on.
Yeah.
They're smaller.
Yeah, you're not spending
even just the
$200,000.
materials alone are less money.
Yeah.
So
That's all relative though, because a paint job on a mini truck costs the exact same as a fancy car.
That's true.
but it's I feel like they're like good. They're like toys, so they're kind of like a different way to express your creativity.
Yeah, that's a really good way to talk about mini trucking is expressing creativity, because in other scenes, I'll use the C10 scene as an example. It is hard to express creativity because essentially if you stray too far from the classic look, then it doesn't really justify the truck. A C10 is a hot rod, and you don't want to like do so much to it to where it like makes it look weird.
Yeah.
Where
Or again, to me, that kind of goes back to like the resale value.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I feel like I can't resell this. I've done too many.
You're not going to put different taillights in it, or you're not going to do something crazy because in the back of your head, you're like, I bought this thing for 20 grand. I'm not going to like make it worth 10 grand.
Yeah.
Frank's,
But a mini truck, you buy it for 5 grand, 6 grand, whatever it is. You know what I mean? It's whatever you do to it really doesn't affect the price.
Frank's C10 is a really good example of that. Frank from Eye Candy, because that one, I agree, and I haven't been in the C10 scene long enough to like really have a great assessment of it. But from what I gather, like that was the closest thing it was to doing something pretty outside of the box. Have this like all gold C10 with these crazy wheels on it and stuff like that. Because I think, like I said, I don't have any like anything to base this on, but I would imagine that when you're building a C10, you're like, okay, it's got to be like one of these colors, and I got to use these sets of wheels, and got to use these parts for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you look at the builds that Frank does and that Jeremy does, you should see the mini truck in there because the colors are a little different. Or
I just listened to OLP podcast with Mike Finnegan. I had no idea Frank painted Burnt Taco.
yeah,
That's cool.
Oh, wow. I didn't
yeah.
know
He
that.
Frank painted a lot of like cars. Like remember that orange Lincoln from Severed Ties from back in the day? It was like a town
that
car.
one, yeah.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff that he's done. But yeah, he comes from mini trucking roots, and I think if you come from mini trucking roots, you can always tell in your builds that you were a mini trucker because it's a little bit lower, or it's a little bit more custom, or you didn't buy the stuff off the shelf.
Yeah.
You kind of, I mean, you look at Frank's C10, like you said, the entire tonneau cover was welded shut.
Yeah.
Who does that?
Right. Yeah, no, yeah, definitely. That's what I'm saying. That's like the closest thing I've seen lately to a wild like C10.
Or people will say, what tubs am I getting? Heart Fab tubs or slosh tubs? It's like, why don't you make some tubs?
Yeah.
You know whose truck is a really
and
good...
I was gonna say that's not to say too that there aren't like right now we're generalizing and it's saying like, oh, there's a lot of off the shelf builds and people aren't as wild or whatever, but that's not true. Like that scene is massive.
Oh,
if you
yeah,
go to Dino's, you're like, oh my god, look at this guy did this and this guy did this or whatever.
I don't have enough
But-
experience in the scene. I can only make generalizations of stuff. I don't have enough experience to say specific stuff. Just sort of like what I've seen.
There's guys out there that are doing crazy stuff, hand fabbing stuff.
I hope
and
to
all
find
that
out
stuff,
next
so.
weekend when we go to that C10 show. I'm excited, man. I do want to like dip my get in there, get in the mud on that scene, and really find out all the things about it.
Frank likes to party. You know what I mean? Like he likes to drink his beers and hang out in
I
hotels
do.
and stuff. I think when he goes to this next weekend, he's gonna be like, "So when are we going to the next one?"
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I have my compound. I have two C10s. I have a
I know.
I have a
You're gonna come home and
63.
be like,
I have a 63
Just
and I
past
have
the
an
fountain
80
out
or
front?
78. Huh?
Just past the fountain
Yeah.
out front, right past the fountain.
Just,
Well,
yeah, when the
and
gates
then-
open.
well, the best thing about that is you can just grab that C10, throw some bone stock wheels on it, and get it running and go to a C10 show.
I
It's
think
not
that's
like
what I
you
might do.
keep-
The 78.
Yeah, you can't do that with a mini truck show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't like cruise into mini nats with a bone stock 1998 Tacoma because they would go,
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that.
Right.
They're not old enough yet. You know?
Right. And that's the difference. That's like you're saying, like that's the mini trucker mentality. I don't know. We can get into the mud about the whole thing, but that's sort of like a loose thing on it.
Talking about C10s, do you remember? It was pretty popular, but one of my favorites of all time, and going back to like before a lot of them fell off the shelf, is the one from Down to Earth. It was yellow and white.
Yeah,
and
Chris
then it was
Kudo.
black after that. Oh my god, that's one of my favorite trucks of all time. That thing is beautiful, and it was just so wild. The body mods and stuff on that, but it still kept like a retro classic.
Again, you can tell when the mini truckers were building C10s versus not.
Do you remember that trip we took out to Bring the Noise, and it was you, me, and then Kudo was out there? That dude drove that truck from SoCal to Phoenix. Like we always say, well, like this high off the ground. No, it was literally like maybe at the most maybe an inch and a half, 2 inches,
And he never
all the way out
lifted
there.
it. Yeah.
He didn't lift it up
That's
once.
I told Panda, about the OBS. I said, I want to make this truck so where I don't have to lift it.
Yeah.
I want to, you know what I mean? If we have to narrow the front end a little bit, of whatever we have to do, I want this thing to function that low, because I want to be able to drive it across town, turning, coming in, you know what I mean, and going into my driveway and just not having to.
That's
cool.
will not lift my truck up. Like
I've seen it.
like I don't want someone to see me not low. Like I get nervous about it. Like I'm kind of the same way with my car. My car is not anywhere near as low. My other car my daily is a 2010 Ford Fusion on 20s and hydraulics, pretty basic, but it gets pretty low. I tuck front and rear. I tuck wheel, and I'm the same way. Like just driving to work every day, I'm like, as soon as I get out of the neighborhood, I'm like, adjust down low. I have to be low. That's everywhere. Cool. And it's even worse with my truck. I drove my truck to work a few years ago, and I was driving by a building that had like glass windows, and I was like, oh my God, this thing's way lower than my car. Like when you see it again from the outside. But that's the point. And so like I'm a mini trucker and I have a bodied mini truck. I'm going to drive this thing as low as I can possibly go. I'm going to hit stuff and scrape and bump and whatever. And like, I don't care. I want to be low all the time. If someone sees me, they need to be like, wow, that's a low truck.
That's
cool.
what I hate.
I can't be lifted up.
Yeah. That's why I hated driving, not hated, but the Maxima, it didn't drive low well.
Yeah.
So I couldn't drive it low. It looked cool parked.
Yeah.
But I couldn't drive it like that. So I was like, well, why? You know?
Yeah.
And then we're spend a bunch of money and redo the suspension. No.
Right.
I'm gonna get a truck.
Yeah, for sure.
And I know when I see someone else, like, especially because like I'm always thinking like, from doing it for so long, everything that I look at is like, what if this was in the video?
Oh, okay.
You know,
Yeah.
same thing with music. I cannot listen to music. Like, I can't just be like, I'm going to enjoy this music. Naturally, my brain starts thinking like, okay, could this song get used in a video?
Oh, cool.
Like, and that's where I go with everything. But yeah, when I see someone else too, and I'm like, you should drive it lower. Like, let me see it lower. Like right now, like what if I was filming you? This needs to be lower.
I know. And I am
Yeah.
I really think that's really cool. I'm the opposite. I don't know. I don't really drive
and
my
lift
truck.
it up?
Well, I mean, my ride height on the 4Runner is already pretty low, but not as low as it could be, you know? So,
Yeah.
but yeah.
See, ride height is always a weird thing.
Mm-hmm. It's a relative
Max
term.
Fish, it is. Well, Max Fish always said ride height should be any height that you put your truck to. There should be a set ride height.
Mm-hmm.
You should be able to ride it high, low, whatever. It should ride good. So,
But here's the difference, and this is my personality shining through. I could drive that thing on the ground. I could drive it everywhere. It performs well. But I'm like, I spent a lot of money on this one.
That's why I get nervous about paint. Like talking about.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
true. That's
Like,
true.
it is my, especially with mini trucks, like it is my suggestion to anybody who's like new and getting into this scene and they're like, I want to build a mini truck or whatever like that, is that you should definitely not paint it before you've driven it for a year at least. Like, you know, even mine just being primered, you know, and again, like I have to drive it as low as possible everywhere. It doesn't matter if I'm turning. I can't be seen in that intersection with the front lifted up. Like it just made, like, so, you know, when I first was driving it, you know, I have bubbles on my front fender from like just not refusing to lift it up and like turning or whatever and rubbing a little bit of tire there or whatever. And if that was paint and not just primer, like I would have just been like,
Yeah.
So it's like, even if you have the money, I feel like you should like roll around in like pre-finish mode for a little while at least, just to make sure that like everything not that it performs the way that you expect, but like to know that like what mistakes are you going to make.
Yep.
As just like driving it around and stuff.
I know.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I forgot who told me, but someone along the way told me, they're like, don't paint your truck. And I'm like, no, it's going to be great. They're like, as soon as you paint it, you're not going to want to drive it as much. That person, I forget who it was right.
Yeah.
Or like when you, like I've always liked under construction builds. Like that's when we do our show, like right away, I'm like, I want to judge under construction. Is you see all this progress and you see the directions that something's going and you're getting excited about it. And then they paint it and it wasn't like the way you wanted them to paint it. And you're like bummed out on it the same way. Like I get nervous about that. Like people like my tinted primer right now. And then like, what's going to happen when I like paint it and then like, it bums someone out. Like, no, it doesn't matter.
But that's the thing,
it's mine. But like,
some of my favorite builds, and I was gonna say this earlier, and I'll say it now. Like, you can tell when I'm like fanboying on a truck. Like, I'll just use it a lot. Like, I do it a lot with Jaime Silva's truck. I do it a lot with your truck. I do it a lot with Eric Almeida's truck from our club. Like, I just like not obsessed, but I like latch onto a truck, and I just like taking pictures of it and filming it and doing all this stuff. And the best trucks are the ones where the person who owns his trucks, their personality spills over. So like your truck is your personality wrapped up in a vehicle. Jaime Silva, that's his personality wrapped up in a vehicle. And that kind of is what you're worried about. You almost don't have to worry about because it's always going to be your personality and will always come through.
Yeah.
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 Damn.
Yeah.
The drop. While we're here, Will is the reason why the drop is the drop.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. That's right. We went live. We were doing our giveaway, which we just did yesterday. We gave away the Legacy Ragtop, which was a lot of fun. But yeah, we were doing a live and we were just kind of like, throwing ideas out there like, hey, we should name the show. What should we name it? And then was the drop. We're like, okay.
No, that actually isn't what I said. You guys took a form of what I said. So I said it should be called Dropping In with Frank and Brian.
Oh, is that what you said?
That's what I said.
We like to make stuff up.
What do they call that? Not the Mandela effect, but like, is that the Mandela effect? How you
Mandela effect's where you're like, it was Bernstein Bears and it was actually the Bernstein Bears or whatever like that.
So what happens when
it's in the ether of like everybody knows that it was that way.
I see. So then what is it called when we remember something like differently than how it actually was?
I think it's
the same.
That might be a reference, but there might be another.
Anyway,
term.
whatever.
I'm sure there is.
Yeah. Okay. So the
Either way, it still came from my comment.
Yeah. Dropping in.
I'll be taking.
Let's just change the name of the show.
So
he wants to take the royalties.
Oh, that's fine. Let's see. Let's check the bank account. Yeah. It's nothing. You get nothing.
Yeah.
This is a little separate, but you were talking about like things you could do with the podcast, which is like I missed the live stream last night, so I don't know who won the ragtop or whatever. But like on your Instagram, I feel like you guys should follow up with your winners if that's possible. I don't know if like
it's a good idea.
Person who won it, whatever. But like I don't know if like
that would help because like
this is the person that won us, like whatever. Like
and that would actually help because I got
later
20 messages today asking who won it.
Who won it?
Yeah. And I'm some dude from Whittier. I don't really know him.
Who has not even responded to the email yet.
Oh.
Well, that's what I wondered too. Was like, do people even know that they won?
We were talking about this last night. Like we're going to set a rule where you have to watch this live stream. Like you have to pay attention. Like, this is when we're going to do it. You have to take that onto your that responsibility of paying attention if you won or not. We will reach out to you, but you have X amount of days to get back to us.
Yeah. And then you'll just put the ragtop.
Yeah, so I already changed my website and I put the new rules there.
Oh, okay. I need to come up with I've been just doing banners, but what I need to do is like what you did is just like have a contest page with all of the information on it. It'd probably be helpful.
Yeah, I mean, as long as people know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's one of those things. So
while we're talking about giveaways and stuff, do you want to announce our new giveaway here on the podcast? We kind of did it yesterday in the live, but we should also maybe do it here on the podcast.
Oh yeah, it's just it's a bunch of chemical guy stuff. And when I say a bunch of stuff, it's
A
quite
bunch of
bit
stuff.
It's a bunch of stuff, and we might get some more stuff too. So I'm actually gonna go out and shoot the guy's truck in a couple weeks.
Again?
And,
Or his
he was-
other truck?
Yeah, different truck.
The black
He's
one?
got the black OBS dually.
That thing is
Yeah.
sick.
We're gonna shoot it in LA.
Oh, cool. Hey,
Yeah,
hit
so
me
we're
up,
gonna-
man.
I'm gonna be out there for Joey's birthday party. Joey's son's birthday party. Are you going
Joey's
to
son's birthday party. I was not invited to that. Thanks,
well-
Joey. No, I was kidding. Maybe my invitation is in the
I was
mail.
invited, and
Maybe my invitation got lost in the mail, Joey.
that? Yeah. So I'll hit you up for sure because
Yeah.
we're gonna just Sunday morning, first thing in the morning when there's no one on the streets, down in the arts district somewhere. We're gonna shoot it.
That's sick. Hell yeah. That'd be cool. Right on. Well, I think we're winding down. I don't want, our viewers to be like, look at the video and like, 3 hours? Nah.
Will is the viewer, so he dictates that.
Oh, okay. Cool.
you could chop this thing up.
No,
However
it's
you
all
gotta chop it up.
all raw, baby.
Whatever.
It's all out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
Yeah.
the only thing I wanted to bring up is by the time this episode comes out on the Grinder TV channel, on my channel, Custom Life, I'll have the brand new Rolling the Red Rocks video up. So please go check that out, like, comment, and if you're not subscribed, please do that.
Are you dropping that on Monday?
On Monday, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and if you're listening to this, make sure you're rating it on Apple or however, or Spotify, whatever you're doing that. And yeah, it definitely helps. I like going on and seeing if someone's rated it or not.
I should check that
Thanks,
out.
man.
I haven't checked that out.
Yeah, if you go on the Apple thing, you can see
Oh, like
if you you see their reviews, and then Spotify, it's like I don't know how
Are
they
you
do
saying
it.
how to do it?
What's that?
Are you saying how to rate on Spotify?
I don't know how to rate on Spotify, but I know you can see like how many stars you have.
There's like 3 dots. Like if you go to like the page for the show, there's like 3 dots towards the top. You just press it. It says rate this show.
oh,
yeah.
cool. Well, please do that for our Spotify listeners.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
for all of our listeners and viewers and all that good stuff.
And also, if you have no idea who I am, and you
I was
wanna see
gonna
the
say,
videos we're-
that was my
we
next
were-
thing I was
that
gonna
we were
say.
talking about. I did recently upload everything except our very first DVD because I didn't have the files. But volumes 2 through 5, I put them all on YouTube. They're just there, just for people,
I need to go back and watch. It's been so long since
Yeah.
I've watched any of that.
Yeah, and I actually created them as playlists too. So you could just go and there's like all the videos, pick whatever. But I also have them set up as playlists per DVD in the proper order as well. So you can watch them that way.
And what YouTube channel is that?
Surface DVD.
Okay.
On the old YouTube.
And then also
And,
about your truck, if people want to check out your truck,
They should check out, the video that Frank did on it,
that
but also-
too, check out the video for that. But if they really, really want to get in depth, they will go
on
to.
Instagram, the build page for it, which I need to start updating more, is at Surface 720, and I'm at Surface Will, and there's also at Surface DVD, which is me posting pictures on there too, and on Spotify I also have all the soundtracks as playlists. You can also just search Surface DVD or look for me, Will Freeman on Spotify, and you can listen to all the music. It's also in order, and it has notes for any song I couldn't get on Spotify in there. So
Awesome.
All our old content, because it's been a while. I got it out there for everybody now. It's like,
That's cool.
I have a few leftover DVDs. I'll give them away at shows and stuff like that. So
If I ever come into a bunch of money, I'm gonna hire Will to help me plan stuff.
Yeah, for sure. He's the creative director. He's going to be the creative director to this show.
I know.
I love doing that type of stuff. Even like going back to like the fact that like I can't do stuff like on my own builds. I don't weld and stuff like that specifically, like those certain things. Like I love like teaming up with someone and just like getting in a garage with a group of people and just staring at something and being like, what about this idea? Like this could be cool. I really love like looking at something and throwing out ideas and stuff like that. That's always been really fun.
Awesome.
Well,
You're
We'll
hired.
definitely, yeah. I'll definitely push you, and we'll figure out some feature stuff because I think that'll be fun.
Yeah, for sure. I've been craving it for so long, and I all I've been doing is talking for a long time.
Yeah, I wanna come
do
up with a
this,
game
I
plan
wanna
and a
shoot
shot
something,
list
I want to
and-
do this.
All that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right on. So yeah, so check out all the Will stuff. Check out Custom Life, Grinder TV.
Yeah.
Thanks for checking out the show, and we'll see you guys next week.
Yay.
Yeah.
So,
So,
bye.
bye.